On today's special episode of Homeworthy, we're stepping inside 4 extraordinary lake houses that capture the magic of waterside living. First, we head to New Jersey to explore a whimsical and soulful captain's cottage. Then we travel to the shores of Lake Michigan to visit a timeless family escape, where expansive floor-to-ceiling glass windows frame breathtaking views. Next, we stop by a light-filled getaway on Lake Norman in North Carolina, where laid-back elegance meets weekend retreat. And finally, we travel to Cape Cod, where a soulful retreat is nestled deep in the woods, just steps from the lake. Enjoy! This summer, spend the hottest months of the year in style with Homeworthy as we visit the most extraordinary homes around the world. From the sun-soaked shores of the Hamptons to the classic beachfronts of Nantucket to the vibrant courtyards of Morocco, be sure to subscribe to Homeworthy's summer series to make every day feel like a vacation. You're watching Homeworthy, where we believe every home has a story.
Hi, Homeworthy. I'm Soulful, and welcome to our home in Mays Landing, New Jersey. Come on in. Hi, I'm Soulful Tank, and this is our home in Mays Landing, New Jersey, and we're standing on the sun porch. I live here with my husband, Steve. We've been here for almost 9 years now. And with his amazing skills, we have slowly converted this, what my grandson would call a dump back in the day, into our home. And after 9 years, I'm still completely enamored with it. I love the river views that we have. I love the unlevel floors and the plaster walls. I'm just completely enamored with this house, and so happy to be able to share it with you today. This house is a 1900s captain's cottage, and what caught my eye many years ago was the porch. It's glassed-in front porch, and it has these long eyebrow windows over each of the big bays of the windows, and that's what first caught my eye. But this room, this is my favorite room of all, is this little glassed-in porch. I love to come out here and sit. I sit here and read my Bible and pray, and I love it. It's the views are just amazing, and it's forever changing. It's like every day is a different story out there. You never know what you're going to see. Every day the river is different, and it's just a beautiful, beautiful place to be. I would say I have 2 favorite places, but the porch is about my favorite. I'm in the kitchen all the time, but I love this porch. The sofa, years ago, we lived in Mississippi, and my daughter was moving into her first apartment in LSU, and her friend was moving in with her. And her friend kept telling me, she was crying because her mother had bought her a sofa. And she says, "Oh, it's so ugly, I can't stand it, it's this ugly thing." And the more she kept saying it was so ugly, I was getting more and more intrigued. And I'm thinking, oh, this is gonna be something that I probably want. So I told her, I said, "Look, I'll give you a new love seat and $50, because her mom paid $50 for it at a yard sale." So anyway, we brought down the love seat down to my daughter, down to LSU to the apartment, and when they went out of the room, I went and I flipped up the cushion. Well, underneath it was a baker. So this is a baker sofa that I got for $50. It's been recovered, and it's slip covered now in painter's drop cloths, which is my favorite thing to slip cover. Because we had a lot of grandchildren. I have 6 grandchildren, and now I have 2 great-grandchildren. So over the years, I just take it off and watch it because I love white. I have to have white around me. When we first came here to the porch, it was all painted red. The walls were painted red. It had red indoor-outdoor carpet. It had an ancient old sofa down there that weighed like 350 pounds. And as soon as I came into this house, I'm like, it has to be white. Everything has to be white. Because I have found, we've flipped a lot of houses over the years. And to me, an old house, especially when one has been unloved for a long, long time, there's nothing like a fresh coat of white paint. It just picks it all up and it just brings it all to life. I love the lightness of just the different shades of cream and white. My design style, I would say, is an organic vintage modern, because I love the mix of woods, but I also like touches of chrome and polished nickel. I like that juxtaposition of the hardness of the metals against the softness of the wood and all the white. It's like I need to have that little bit of metals running through. But you know, with having the white walls and the white sofa, it's just, I don't know, this room is just light and airy, and that's probably how I've tried to keep the whole house. I have some color, but I love the whites, and I just think it's very peaceful and very restful, because that's the essence of this whole house. But I have a quick funny story about this porch too. When we first came here, my husband was very excited to see the house, but as we moved through the house, his excitement started to wane, let's say, a little bit. So we come out here under the porch, and my realtor says to me, she goes, Solveig, what do you want to do with this house? Do you want to flip it? Do you want to sell it? And I said, flip it or sell it? I said, I want to live here. So my husband looks at me and he says, you are crazy. And he said, you're trying to kill me. He said, you want to kill me. And then just then, my brother swoops in, grabs my husband by the arm, swings him around. He says, look at that view. He said, this house is amazing. He said, you have to buy it and move here. So that's what sold the house to my husband. But so I always think about that when I'm out here, but he loves it now. He loves to sit out here too. Well, let's take a walk over to the dining area. It's a long way, so follow me. This dining table actually came out of an old house that we had bought in Ventnor, New Jersey. We found it in the garage, and it was completely covered in oil. I think they had maybe repaired engines on it, because it had a lot of engine oil on it. But my husband ran the wood through a planer at my father's and planed all the wood, and it came back to life. And we've had it in every house that we've been, and we've just really cherished it. I mean, my family, I have a good sized family, and when they come, I can fit 9 people here. We can squeeze in, and then I can fit some over there. So I know when we bought this house, my kids weren't that thrilled, because they're like, why do you want such a little house coming from a big house? And I said, you know, for when you come to visit, we can all squeeze in here. You know, we can all manage. So we do, and we've had lots of parties here, a lot of people, and we can squeeze. And I'm never short on table space. I have tables everywhere, because I love to cook and I love to have little get-togethers. So we have plenty of places to sit and eat. But I love this little table, and it has worked out so pretty here. We really enjoy it. These plates were actually my grandmother's, and when she passed, my aunt gave them to me. And what I love about them is that each one has a little different flower pattern on them, and I think they're so sweet, and I love that little bit of cobalt blue. When I was setting up the tablescape for in here, my little friend next door, Caroline, she brought me some things. She brought the gauze and these little vases, and she did the flowers for me, and she did such a beautiful job, because she just captured exactly what I wanted, because I like it. I like just things shoved in a vase. I don't like a formal arrangement of anything, and she did it. I thought things came out so pretty, and it's just, I don't know. I love this porch, and I love being out here. And then this chandelier, my brother and sister-in-law got me this, because I call it my firefly jars. It's not that I'm like crazy over the chandelier, but it's like, it's a memory, because I first saw this house in 1986, and I was a single mom raising 3 children and couldn't afford to buy a home. And to me, and there was fireflies, there were always fireflies here. And to me, it would have been a dream that my kids could have caught fireflies in the jars. So I said, this is my firefly jars. Well, the floors in here, like I said earlier, this was red indoor-outdoor carpet. And that was one of the first things. I'm like, oh my God, we got to get this carpet up and see what's underneath here. So when we ripped up the carpet, we had this beautiful floor. This would have been, you know, the subfloor, because we think at one time this was actually an open porch. It kind of looks, because there's piers outside, so we're thinking maybe this was open. So anyway, I hand sanded, we had a big sander, and I sanded these floors, and it was like a joke because the floors are like this. So when you're running a sander, the sander wants to kick up like that all the time, and my husband would run out here and go, "What are you doing? What are you doing?" But I did manage. I mean, I think it's okay. I mean, he of course fixed everything that I didn't do too good, and then we put spar varnish on it, and it's been great because these doors are quite old. I mean, these are the original doors here. And we have come to refer to this house as our old yacht. So there are days when if we get a nor'easter blowing off the river, like, well, where's north? But there's days that we'll get a bad nor'easter, and then on those days, we'll get water in. But it comes in on the floor, and it's okay. We mop it up, and we're good because of the finish that's on here. And then also, the ceiling, there was drop ceiling in here. And we took that down. It was this great boarding up here, and we just painted this pale gray. It's Sherwin-Williams knitting needles, which is I love that gray. I think it's so pretty. I have it the same color here on the shutters. And these were original too, which I love these. I think this was one of the big things because I would drive by this house all the time you gotta understand, it's many, many years. And you could see these because the walls were painted like this brick red and these were white. So I always saw that, and I love the shutters. And so I painted those that knitting needles color from Sherwin-Williams, but I just love that. Follow me now on into the foyer. This is the entrance foyer to our house. It's went through quite a transformation. There's 9-foot ceilings in here, and then we have this picture frame molding that's all around. Originally, all the moldings and trim were in a green, which is that, I don't think this house sat empty for, I don't know, at least 20 years it was empty. But I think the green that was in here was probably one of the original, that, I don't know the color, but they used to use that many, many years ago. So the doors were green, all the trim was green, and the walls were this like dull beige color. There was lots of rugs everywhere. I mean, every square foot was covered with a rug. But then once we got the house and we started, peeling back the layers, we found out why they had so many rugs. Because way back when what they had for rugs, when you didn't have money, you used linoleum, sheets of linoleum, and the linoleum was printed to look like an Oriental rug. So what they would do over the years, they would lay the linoleum down and then paint around it. But they never lifted it up to paint the whole floor. So the floors were just a myriad of colors. Purple, green, red. It was like a kaleidoscope. But we ended up having to have an estate sale because the house was packed with furniture. So I ran estate sales for about 3 weeks every weekend to try to get rid of everything. Because it was all like early American, and like I said, a lot of scatter rugs. But the beauty of this foyer, and this really captured me because I just, the house is little. I mean, the house is around 1,600 square feet. And the rooms are small, but we were coming from a bigger house, more like a contemporary, which was not I didn't care for it. But when we first started working in this house, I like the smallness of the rooms. It just felt very comfortable to me. And I'm like, you know what? I don't want to knock down any walls. I don't want to open it up. I want to leave it like this, like it was originally. And I love the feel of it. And I love this wide hallway. I love the picture frame molding, and I love the tall baseboards. And it's just, when I look at it now, I remember, painting this. And it's all a memory for me. Like, it's just, this house is such a treasure to me that every little thing that I did is sealed in my heart, and it's just very, very special to me. I want to show you something, a few things here. This is the original door, which was, of course, painted brick red. Somebody made it, and this was not like, fine craftsmanship. But anyway, we took it, had it stripped, and I love it. I love it just like it is. I put a matte finish clear coat on it because I didn't want any shine. I didn't want to change the color of the wood, but I just love it as it is. So I just think it's beautiful. Now, when we come over here, this is a little cabinet that we found down in the basement. And I took it over and had it dipped and stripped. And then we decided to make like a little cabinet out of it. I put all my purses and everything and hats and gloves in here. And it worked out because there's no storage. We don't have any closets really per se. We have one little closet down here in the office. And but when I got it back, and we had it here, I was like, it was too much wood. So I just painted it white and then left the natural wood here. And I really like that because it has a little bit of that. It looks like a little bit of spalting running through here, and I really like the look of that. But the treasure of everything, and the treasure of this house, is this ugly little piece of wallboard. And without getting in, there's a lot of history here with me in this house. But on the second day of the demo, my husband, I was outside setting up lunch for us because you couldn't be in here. The dust and the dirt was just crazy. So I was outside setting up lunch, and I see my husband come down in this cloud of dust because all the doors were open, and this cloud of dust coming behind him, and he's carrying this piece of wallboard, and he says to me, well, he goes, I think this is supposed to be your house. He said, this is proof. So he hands it to me, and I read it, and what it says is, built by Captain Will Spink, March 6th, age 50 years old, my birthday has it circled, 1928, and it says, first time ever built. Same job, I don't know what that means. Well, anyway, my birthday is March 6th, and I was born in 1958. So I was born 30 years after he was putting on the second edition upstairs, and it took me 30 years to get here. So that's my treasure. So my husband says, this was really meant to be your house. I like to tell you about this piece of marble. This was in the house. It was actually out on the porch. It was on top of a rickety old coffee table base. I don't even remember now at this point what it was. And the house was like such a wreck in here because, we had to totally gut the upstairs. So it was just a disaster area. So what we ended up doing, so nothing would happen to this, I set up my furniture. When we moved over, I had a nice set of the pretty white wood furniture. We set it up across the street, and we put this on top of a coffee table base. So it served as a coffee table for probably the first 2 years. And then I was working at a furniture store. I was a store planner there for a couple years and a buyer. And we sold a lot of these stumps. And I always, whenever I did a project, or somebody's house or in the store, I always had to use this and turn it into a table. I always put a piece of marble on it or a piece of glass. But I love the lines. To me, it's very sinuous, and I love how that looks. That bare wood like that. I think it's just so beautiful. And I love the organic. I love to mix organic into anything I do, and I love the warm feel of the woods. And this basket, this was a find from Habitat. I think I paid $19 for it at Habitat. I loved it because of the chrome. It was just like, it was out just sitting there, and it was just calling me because I had the chrome and the natural, which is my thing, and a little bit of leather on there too. So I just love that. And then the vase, I found this vase. I think this was a Home Goods find, which I love because it's wood, and I love how it works so pretty with the color of this wood, the tones that are in that. And the flowers were from my little friend that lives next door, Caroline, she did the flowers for me. And I just love the Queen Anne's lace and the mums. It's just so beautiful and just open and airy. And I think it just came out really, really pretty. And then you'll probably notice I have a lot of photographs. To me, photographs are my art. I love black and white photographs. And it's all my family, you know, they're all my children and my grandchildren. And I struggle, you know, with which ones to keep and which ones to hang up. But what I've started to do here, this is my kind of my holding zone, I call it, because I determined to sketch them all. And over the years I will. So what I do is I hang them here and then eventually plan to sketch them, and then there'll be sketches instead of photos. I really hate like a studio photo. I don't like that. I like candid shots. I like to catch them with their personalities, you know, as who they are. I love this rattan peacock chair. My husband got me this for Christmas last year. It was a find at Habitat for Humanity. I think it was a little too much money for Habitat for Humanity, but I loved it. And this spot was calling for it. It had to go here. And then I just put a little Mongolian sheepskin here, which I love. I grew up, we're Norwegian, and we always had skins everywhere growing up. So it's just, I have to have my skins here and there. But I just love this, and I think I love how it sits here so well. It's just like it's perfect. Let's go take a look at the living room now. Welcome to the living room. It's not that big of a room. It's a little on the small side. And like I said, I have a big family. My family are big people. And we had put our original furniture that we had from our other house in here. And the one Christmas, I looked at them all smushed on that sofa. And I have photos of that. But they're all like smushed on that sofa. And I said to my husband, I'm like, you know, we're going to have to really do something serious in here, because we need to be able to have more seating in here. And so we ended up building this sofa. And this was my foray into furniture design, which I'm going to leave that there and leave furniture design to the designers. I worked at a furniture store. Like I said, I was a store planner, and Lee Industries has a sectional that I just loved, but that just wasn't working for us. We really couldn't swing it at the time. And so what I did is I started copying the sofa, and I copied the cushions. Like I got the exact seat cushion and the back cushion. This is their Cloud 9 seat, and I think that's the plush back. So it's the same as the sectional. And then my husband built this base. The base was actually the door that was in the hallway. He cut it apart and then built this base. But, and then we just had a flat top on it. But over time, it wasn't real comfortable. And my husband would say his derriere was hurting when he would sit there. So we had two different upholsterers play around with it a little bit, trying to get it to the place where it was comfortable. And finally, the last guy we had, he came and he built this platform. He padded it. And the thing was getting the tilt. That's the thing about furniture design. And a lot of people they'll build banquettes all the time, or they do a built-in sofa, but it's not comfortable. Like, I want everything in my house to be comfortable. I am all about comfort. And that, to sit flat is not comfy. So doing it this way, where everything's kind of tilted back a little bit, gives you that comfort, like you're sitting on I mean, it's not the same as a sectional, but it works really well and it's comfortable now. And the other good thing about it, when I take these cushions off, it's actually like a twin bed here. And if you're smaller, I can fit two people here. So it gives us a little extra. And then I love the fabric is washed Belgian linen, so I can take it off and wash it. And it's a pale gray, but it's really mellowed over the last couple years, which I really love, because I always did, like I said earlier, white slip covers, but I wanted to do the gray. I wanted a little bit of a color, and I wasn't sure. Like I kept saying, oh, I'm just going to slip cover it white. But I really love it now because it's really mellowing and fading out. And I hope that it'll continue to do that. And I just really like it. And it's strong and it holds up. You know, when I have family here, I don't have to worry about anything because I can just take it off and wash it. The other thing, what happened here with the rug, this rug really began to set the tone for this whole room. I mean, this room's gone through a couple different gyrations of color and different things. I had it all kind of white and navy for a while. But this rug, in 1993, we were in Mississippi for about 9 years, and I was an interior designer. And I used to travel a lot, and the distances with my clients was, 85 miles, 90 miles one way. So it was a haul for me to go anywhere. So what I started doing, I got a big Suburban, and I would load up my Suburban with all my accessories, and I found this gentleman in Greenwood, Mississippi from Ashley's Rug World, I think he's still in business. And we worked out a deal where he would load me up with Oriental rugs, and I would keep them in the truck. So when I would go out to a job, I could just go out to my truck and get a rug. So anyway, this one, I loved this one, and I bought this and kept it for myself. It was this dark, kind of like it wasn't pink and it wasn't red. It was this really pretty, like rosy red color or pinkish red, and but it just didn't suit me anymore. And so for the last 10 years, really, it's been in a bag in storage, and we hadn't been using it. So one day I said, I found this guy in New York, and what they do is it's a process called antiquing. And so he came and he took a look at it. And I said, well, what do you think could happen to it? And he said, well, the process, what it does, it strips away the color, but you're not guaranteed of what color it's going to come up. But he's done it enough, he kind of understands what could happen. So he's looking at it, and he said, I think it's going to come up kind of cream and gray, maybe brown. I said, that's perfect. And at that point, I didn't really care because I would just be out the money, that it cost me to have it redone. And I thought, well, if I don't like it, I'll just sell it. And so he took it, and it was quite a process. What they do first is they shave the pile on the rug, and when they do that, it intensifies the pattern. So what if that pattern had seemed a little muted before? As you can see, like the blacks and all these different parts here, they weren't that noticeable before, and that was actually there was like a navy blue, those colors. So when they shave it, that pattern just really rises to the surface and you can really see it. Then it begins to go through all these different chemicals. And it's a little scary because it's older, and you don't know if it's going to make it, and you're not guaranteed. So anyway, took quite a few months. I get it back. I fell in love with it. And I love it. I mean, what happens with these things? I mean, you can see here, there's like some white thread here. But when these rugs are made, they are, maybe that yarn came from a different village. Like the colors are never going to be exactly the same. And sometimes in these rugs, you'll see big swaths of areas where like you can see here almost, if you can get that. See how this is gray and that, because then that would have been yarn that was used from another village. So you're never, when they dye everything, it's different, but then you just never know what it's going to come up because of the different yarns that are used. And the interesting fact is that was my family's business. My grandmother was in the Oriental rug business, and that was her father's business. They were Armenian, and they sold Oriental rugs. So that's where I grew up, in an Oriental rug store as a child. That's where we spent our summers. She was in Ocean City on the boardwalk, and we spent our summers, sleeping behind the Oriental rugs they were up on big easels, and we would sleep and take naps back behind them in the store. But back to the rug, I mean, I love how the rug came out, and I feel like it set the whole tone really for the whole house. And then I feel now like we've been here 9 years, the house has started to settle into itself, and she's taken on a look that really suits her. And it's nice to let the house do that. And I think like the house is just kind of doing that herself, really. I mean, I kind of took a step back from it. And as I did that, the design starts to evolve, and I'm really pleased with how it came out now. And I'd had this coffee table before I did the rug, which has that kind of amber brown. So when the rug came in, I was like, oh, I love it with the coffee table now. And then these two pieces. This is, I got this at an estate sale. I think I paid like $20 for it. I found this piece. I think it's the same artist. It looks exactly the same. It almost looks like torn paper, which I know it's not, but I think it is. I think it is the same artist, and I love how that worked together. But I have a funny story about the turtle. Why I had to get this turtle. When we first moved here, my daughter bought us this great big float. You know, like a 5-person float. So we had it down in the river. And one day I was out there and I'm floating around and I was like, oh, this thing is really dirty. I need to get off and clean it. So I pulled in and I started cleaning it off. Well, I hear this voice say to me, you better get back on the float in case there's a turtle. And I thought, turtle, I'm out of here. So I paddled in, I got off it, I came up. And that night, my husband and I are sitting across there. And we see something big moving very slowly out there in the mud. It was dead low tide, and this big thing is moving. Well, it was a giant snapper that had big, it looked like horns on its back and up on top of its head. I was like, oh, that's the end of that, because I was swimming down there. I was trying to do some laps back and forth, so my swimming days were over. So when I was at the estate sale and I saw the turtle, I'm like, oh, I got to get the turtle. But I love him, though, because I love a little bit of crystal, too, or a little bit of glass. And I love that mixed with the organic elements and the linen. But it's like you need a little bit of shine mixed in with all those, with the matteness, let's say, of organic elements. I think you need a little bit of shine to give it a little bit of life. And then this, of course, is a stressless chair. My husband calls it the sleepy chair because anybody that sits there is going to fall asleep right away. But that's from Eckerness, and I just love that. And if you got little aches and pains or bad back, that's the chair. You got to have that chair. It's fabulous. I love the white leather and a little bit of chrome. Or not chrome, but the stainless steel, and then the light wood, I think, just brings it all together in here. Well, let me tell you my story about this house, because there's a lot of history here with this house. I first encountered this house in 1986, when, after dropping my son off next door to visit his little friend, Frankie, that was his kindergarten buddy. And they were friends for many years, and he would come back and forth, and we would come back and forth through here a lot. And then fast forward a lifetime later, I married my husband in 1993, and we had moved to Mississippi, and then we moved back here. And then in 2007, we actually bought a house right around the corner from here. I was going through a really difficult time in my life, and really shouldn't have been house hunting or getting involved in any kind of house hunting situation. But anyway, the market was really high, and we had a house over in Ventnor near the beach, and it was our opportunity to sell. So we sold our house in Ventnor, and it was very hard to find a house. Couldn't find anything. It was just like now. The market was crazy, and there was a housing shortage. So we knew we wanted to be over here in this neighborhood. Nothing to do with this house, but we wanted to be in this neighborhood. So there was one house for sale here. That was it. And it was a 1990s contemporary, not to my liking at all. And my husband liked it. He liked it a lot because we were coming from a 2-story row in Ventnor, which we had rehabbed. And so there wasn't a lot of storage, or he didn't have a garage, or much like that. So anyway, he was happy. He had a 2-car garage, had a basement, and 2 attics. That was a man's dream over there. So he was happy. We bought it, and we rehabbed it. But the thing was, I never felt at home there. And looking back now, to me, a home has to have soul. If a home doesn't have soul, I mean, it can be beautiful, you know, and or it can be perfect. It doesn't matter, like how perfect the design is, or the view, or whatever. If the house has no soul, to me anyway, it's just flat. You know, there's just, I have to have a connection, and I had no connection to that house. I mean, it was beautiful. It came out beautiful. Everybody loved it, but I was never, I never felt connected there. And you know, it was literally, we could walk from that from that house to here, and we would come past here all the time, and we always admired it. It sat empty, I think 20 years probably. I don't think anybody really been here. There was an elderly couple that owned it, and they had a handicapped child, and they'd come down once in a while and cut the grass, and that was about it. And so it always looked abandoned, you know, tall grass blowing in the breeze, and it was just, it looked forlorn. And at that point in my life, I was so forlorn. I felt as forlorn as this house looked, you know, and we kind of, I think that's how we connected, because I was so sad. And I had come to the place in my life, I was like, you know, this sadness is just going to be with me for the rest of my life. I had a broken heart, and there was nothing ever going to make it better. So, you know, I was just doing my best going through life. But then in 2013, something started to change within me. I started waking with this anticipation and this excitement. I didn't know why. And I started feeling the need to clean out and get rid of things. I would call my daughter or my daughter-in-law. I'd say, I got this, you want it, come and get it now. Or I'd call my daughter's friends, you want this, come and get it now. And I was just like getting rid of things, packing things up, cleaning out. And I never knew why. And I started hearing just in case. And I would hear just in case. Every time I would tackle a project, I would hear just in case. And I would say, well, just in case of what? I didn't know. I had no idea. I had no idea what was coming. I mean, we had remodeled that house. It was beautiful. We had no intentions of moving or selling. That was not on our radar at all. And then in 2014, I started feeling the need to come by here. And I would say to myself, just in case. And I was like, just in case of what? I have no idea. So my grandchildren went to school right around the corner from here, and I would pick them up each day from school, and I would take the long way home, because I could have been to my house in a minute if I went that way, but I'd pick them up and I'd say, look, we're gonna take the long way home. And I said, I just need to swing by the little house for a minute. And they hated it. And they'd say, Mimi, why do you want to go past that house? Why do you like it so much? It's a dump. And I said, I don't know. I said, just in case. And they would say, of course, just in case of what? And I'd say, I don't know. I just am doing it just in case. So I was doing that. Now that's all 2014. I mean, it started out, I would go every couple months. And then it was every month. Then it was every week. Then it was every day I was coming by here. So I had this one particular day in late April. I'm coming down the road. I said, look, I got to swing by it real fast. Of course, you know, they were balking in the back seat. And I see something different on the landscape coming down the road. I see a white thing. And I said, what is that? And my grandkids said, well, it looks like a sign. So I pull up, jump out. I grabbed the thing, I grabbed it out of the ground, and it was a for sale sign. Well, I was having a fit. So I took the sign and I shoved it down in the hedge like that so that nobody could see it. It was well hidden. I jumped back in the car. I get on the phone, I call my realtor. I'm like, Karen, I said, this house just came up for sale. I'm trying not to be so enthusiastic. And so she goes, all right, well, let me look it up. And she tells me the price. Well, I almost passed out. I was like, get me in there tonight. And then she says, whoa, wait a minute. She said, let me look at it. She goes, the whole upstairs is a gut. I said, I don't care. I said, just get me in there. So that night we come and we look at it. It was my husband and I and my grandchildren, because I was babysitting my grandchildren, and the realtor, and then my brother Robert and his wife came along, and so we all come in, and they were all like, "You're nuts," because the house was just a time capsule. It was sealed up, and my realtor looks at me and she goes, "Solveig," she said, "why would you want this? You have a beautiful home around the corner. Why would you want this?" And I said, "I'm home. I am home." And to back up for a minute, when we arrived here that night, we're driving down the driveway. We could barely get through. It was so overgrown. And we're squeezing. We had the whole pickup, and we're like squeezing back here. Well, my husband hadn't even put the car in park, and I'm out. I'm jumping out. And the minute my feet hit the ground, I felt something come up my feet and just come up through my body. And for a moment, I'm screaming silently to myself, "I am home. I am home." For the first time in my life, I've lived all over. I've had beautiful homes. I've had nothing. And I was home because there was this connection here that I never had. And I realized I had been searching for that all my life, searching for home. And the thing is the soul. There's a connection. There's just, I don't know what it is, but this is the one thing I've learned. There's something to be said about delayed gratification. It took me 30 years to get here. And I never asked. I never, I'm a praying woman. But I never asked for this house. When we started this whole process, I didn't even think it was possible. I mean, honestly, I thought it was mission impossible. I had ran home and I prayed. And what I prayed was I prayed for God's will only, His will, not mine, because I knew I could get in and I could really mess things up. And I knew that a lot of things would have to line up to actually make this come together, that were completely out of my realm of abilities, let's say. And but there's something about God giving us the desires of our heart. And I never prayed for this house. I never asked for this house. I saw this house and it captured my heart. And it captured my heart through such a difficult, the sadness that I felt. And this house seemed to be so sad because when I look at it, I knew what it could become. And through that, it gave me hope that I could become again. I could become myself again. And through this, like all that we went through, not that any of it was easy. I'm not saying that, it was a journey, but through it, I have found myself again. And God has blessed me so much, and that amazing view out there is my strength. And whenever I feel those dark days come, I can walk out there and I can look at God's amazing masterpiece, and it just speaks to me, and I'm strengthened. And I have joy again, that I thought joy was gone, and I have found it again. And it's rooted, and can a house heal me? I don't know, but between God and this house, I can tell you, I can laugh again. Something I never thought I could do. Well, come on, let's go look at the rest of the house. Well, welcome to my dining room. Again, the rooms are small, but I don't mind it, honestly. I really don't. I don't mind that they're closed off. But another thing that I love about this room is this window, which we have no idea why there's a window here, but we think that originally this was the kitchen because there was a chimney here. Once we took it all apart, there was a chimney here, but it still doesn't explain why there was a window here. And the prior owners had a china cabinet and it was shoved in there. So you didn't even know, when you walked in this way, you didn't know there was a window here. But when you went in the living room, what it looked like was a built-in bookcase. They had They had shelves in there. It was so bizarre. But so we, got rid of that china cabinet right away. And I love this because it's nice if you're, if you're in there watching TV, and I live in the kitchen. So if I have the TV on and you want to watch TV in here, it gets a little noisy. So my husband closes this to close me off sometimes. But anyway, this room has been through a few gyrations. I knew I wanted a banquette. The first time I saw this room, I'm like, how it was originally, there was one single window right here, just a long window, but it was so dark in here. It was just like a cave. So as soon as I saw this room, I'm like, oh, I need 2 windows and I need a banquette. Had to be a banquette. So I found this banquette at it's a restaurant supply place that they used to have in Mays Landing. There was a warehouse, and I don't know, I think I paid $100 for each section. I think it was black and red, probably came out of some old Italian restaurant. And I had my upholsterer recover this in a, it's not, I don't think it's Sombrella. It's a high performance fabric, which is great because, with grandkids and great-grandkids, you never know what's going to happen. And then I just put a vinyl on the seats, which is, it's very close to that knitting needles, that Sherwin-Williams knitting needles color. So it's just a real soft gray. And the vinyl is great. I can just clean it off. And I have my little sheepskins, which I always have to have my sheepskins. Now, this is my plate wall, which has gone through a couple gyrations because, like I said earlier, I had blue and white. And when I first started this, I wasn't sure what I wanted to do here. And I found these on eBay, of course, from England. They're a British stoneware. So I ordered these, and then that's just like a pottery bar. And I found both of them on eBay, and I got them. I'm like, I like them, but I wasn't crazy over them. So we were rooting around in an antique store one day, and I came across these 2, and they're Limoges. Well, I fell in love with these because they reminded me of the river with the browns and the fish, and it just reminded me. I said, that's perfect. That's what I want to go with. This one is funny, though, because this is when you shop late at night. This is not a good thing to do. So I found this is a Limoges piece, and I ordered it. I clicked buy, before I really thought about it. So then I woke up the next morning, I said to my husband, I said, I ordered this plate, but I think it's a dead fish because I got thinking about it. There's flowers and there's grass. I'm like, well, there wouldn't be flowers and grass under the water. And he's like laying there. So then the plate came a couple days later. I'm like, yeah, that's a dead fish laying there. So that's my dead fish plate. But I love how it looks, and I love the movement of it. Because where the house is old, and it needs that little bit of modern edge to it, I think, to make it come alive. I didn't want to just do it all traditional, and I have to have that little bit of, I don't know, that it's an edge, I guess, to it. And I love the movement of it. And then this lamp was my husband's mother. She collected Duran ware. So this is a Duran lamp, but it never really had a home. So it finally works really well with the plates, and I just love how that came out. So we'll move on into the kitchen. Well, welcome to my kitchen. This is where I'm at all the time, especially on Sundays. I can be in here pretty much all day. I always say I get stuck in here, but I love being in here because I love to cook, and I really enjoy being in here. When we purchased this house, though, the kitchen was actually, the sink was here, and then this was cabinets. The stove was over there. So it's gone through quite a few different transitions. But I have a funny story about the night we came here to look at this house. We came, like I said, the realtor, I had my 2 grandchildren, my brother, and my sister-in-law. And originally there was a door here. So you'd come into the vestibule, and then you had to open this door to get in here. And when we came to the door, I wanted to put the key in. I didn't want the realtor. I wanted to do that. So she let me do that. And then when I opened the door, I stepped in, and all I hear is crunch, crunch, crunch. Well, I didn't dare look down because I just wanted to get the key in that other door and get in the house. And so I couldn't get the door open. It was jammed and I couldn't get it open. So my husband comes in and he says, I'll do it. So in turning to go out, I looked down. Well, there's hundreds of dead bumblebees. It was just all dead, like carpenter bees, all over there. But I was okay. I didn't let that, that wasn't going to bother me. And so anyway, he had to end up putting the shoulder to it to get it to open. So we got in and, you know, everybody's talking and talking. So, but then all of a sudden, it's all quiet in here and nobody's saying a word. And everybody's turning and looking at me. I'm like, uh-oh. And it was so hot in here you couldn't breathe. I mean, there was not a pinch of air. And I said, oh, we need to get air in here stat. So I ran over to a window. I was trying to change the temperature of the room because I could feel my husband's blood pressure starting to go up. And so I went over to the dining room to try to open the window. Well, of course, they were all painted shut. I couldn't get it open. So then he goes over to try to open the window and I hear him go, single pane windows. And I was like, oh no, this is over before it even started because he hates single pane windows. And I knew that. But anyway, he gets the window open and we're all just like standing in his kitchen and it had an old enamel top table. And my sister-in-law leans in, she goes, I want that table. And you know, and it was awful. Like there's dead bumblebees and spider webs. It was just frozen in time. Nothing had been touched. And I said, why don't we just keep moving? And then we went on through the house. But when we started working in here, they had linoleum tile was, I wouldn't even say glued down because they used to use almost like a tar back in the day when that went down. And my husband, I'll say that was one of the horrible projects because he was down there with I don't know, it's like an electric chisel, I can't think what you call it, but trying to get those tiles up. And then once you get the tiles up, then you got to get all that black gunk up. So there was no salvaging this floor. We were hoping, you know, we'll get down to the bare wood because the rest of the floors were all wood. And we thought, well, we'll be able to salvage it, but we couldn't. And so we went through quite a few different situations of what to do here. And the house is really old and the floors are really uneven. And I did want ceramic tile, but I was afraid of the weight. And because I knew I wanted stone countertops. So I had to like kind of compromise for the weight load factor for the room. So we ended up going with this. We put down a glue down vinyl, which worked out fine because, you know, this house has been steady construction. I can mop this thing with hot water. I don't have to worry about it because I like to wash with nice hot water. I wash it and we're good. Everything is fine. And through all the construction, it's been great. So I've really enjoyed that. When we were working on the kitchen, this piece, I love this piece because I had a fine linen store for 10 years. And this was one of the props from my store. It was actually like a little china cabinet, and it was sort of like an aqua color, and it was trimmed with gold. And I had given it to my daughter, and my daughter, Stella, always says, she calls herself Stella Store. Because I give her things, and then if I want it back or she doesn't want it, so it's like always like back and forth between the two of us. So anyway, I said, well, you know, I'll take the top of it if you want to keep the bottom. So she said, yeah, because she said, I can use the bottom like a bookcase. I said, well, that's fine, and then I'll take the top. So I took it over to the guy that does my stripping, and you know, he did a little test on it. He said, you know, I think it might be walnut. So he stripped it, and he was as excited about it as I was because he said it's solid walnut. I love the shape of it with that little bonnet top up there, and how pretty the wood came out, just that soft wood. And then I just put that. It's a clear matte finish from, I think it's Lennar. But it's you know, it's not so shiny, but it's still, because I cook, I'm always cooking in here and splashing things, and I don't have to worry about it, anything happening to it. But I keep all my dishes. I've pared down everything. You know, I keep everything that I use. I use everything that's in my kitchen. There's not just stuff here. I use everything, and I cook in here. But we put in we have the quartzite countertops because I do a lot of baking, and I love to, and my thing is I make a lot of biscuits, and so it's nice to roll biscuits out on this cold. It always stays cold. And my husband says, but in the wintertime, it's really cold. But in the summer, you enjoy it because it cools off the kitchen a little bit. And then we use the butcher block for the rest of the kitchen. And then this is our little coffee area. And then this is my baking area. So I have all my, I know I have 2 KitchenAids. Doesn't everybody have 2 KitchenAids? Actually, I had 3, but the third one is blue. So I don't want the blue in here, but I have to have the 2 because I use them for different things. But it works. It works really well. I mean, it's small, but it's very functional, and it works for us. We sit here, and watch. My husband likes to sit here and watch TV. He reads his Bible here. He likes sitting here, and it works really well for us. And if I have a get together, we just take the bar stools out, and it's fine. But so it's worked out quite well for us. And then over here is my I do a lot of canning and dehydrating things from my garden in the summer. So this evolved. This wasn't like this. We actually had like a little a bench there, a little place for him to sit and take his shoes off when he'd come home from work. But we ended up taking that out, and I said, I need more in this kitchen, and I needed a place to put the dehydrator. So that worked out really well. So it gave us more storage. Of course, he lost his little place to sit, but I gave him a bench outside now, so he has a place to sit outside, take his boots off, so he's happy. Well, let's go on up, and I'll show you the rest of the house. We'll look at the upstairs. Well, let me show you our little bathroom, which is right over here. This bathroom was actually the hallway when you came upstairs, so we had to make a bathroom. So it's long and narrow, but it's the only bathroom that's upstairs. And the mural on the back wall was a result from COVID. I had time on my hands, so I painted that. And funny story is my husband came home and he goes, oh my gosh, he goes, why does it have to be a flower? He said, the bathroom's supposed to be gender neutral. He said, why couldn't you paint a deer with some pine trees back there instead of a flower? I said, well, I love flowers. I always paint flowers. So it was just funny. And then here, this is our little storage for my linens, and we bumped back in under the eaves of the roof, and this created a nice little storage area. This painting, this is another one from William Mackenzie. And after he passed, I was over at my friend's house, Joanne's, and she said, why don't you take a painting? I went into his studio, and there's just hundreds of paintings. So I went through all these paintings, and I found this one, and I said, you know what, I really like that one. I'd like to have that. So she said, yeah, you take it. So anyway, I had it hanging in my office. And it hung in my office for probably 2 years. And then a couple months back, I decided, I sort of want to take that upstairs. I wasn't really sure where I wanted to put it. So I had set it down here in the hallway. And one night I get up to come to the bathroom, and I see something glowing. And I said, what in the world is that? I thought it was a reflection from a light, because there was nothing here. And I'm like, what in the world is that? Well, I go over to touch it, and it's the painting. What was glowing was a cross. Apparently, he painted a cross underneath the painting in glow-in-the-dark paint. And so it glows at night. And I never knew that. All that time, it was down in my office, and I never saw it. So it's just a wonderful reminder of God's love for us. And I see it every night I get up, and I come through and I see that cross glowing, and it's all good. This is our little guest room, really, for the kids. I mean, when we were looking at this house, even though it was in the state that it was, my grandkids went crazy over this room. They just loved it because it was tiny. And we decided to do a built-in bed, and my husband took we found some old doors down in the basement, and he took the old doors and cut them and made the base of it. And then I have storage underneath for all my old linens. And like I said, I owned a linen store, so I have a lot of things that I had to keep. So they're all neatly stored underneath there. But it just makes like a great little room. And this is all my grandchildren's art. In my other house, I had a full art studio downstairs. So whenever I had my grandchildren, they always all paint it. So this is their art from when they were little. They're all grown now, so, but my granddaughters, when they come, they sleep here. You know, you can still fit one in here, but, and then we'll go on into the master bedroom. So this is our master bedroom, and we did quite a bit of renovation up here. It was in deplorable shape, and it was actually segregated into about 3 rooms here. And so we decided to turn it into a master bedroom, but the plan was originally when we came here, I wanted to just do this as a big open room. I was going to put a couple beds in here, make this like an art studio, and make our office up here. But once we got, you know, ripping and tearing up here, and my husband saw the view, and he said, "Oh no," he said, "if you're going to make me live here, I want our bedroom up here." So what happened is, like, my budget for the kitchen went up here to do this, because we had to do some structural work for the ceiling. And what I did is when I was drawing this up, I did these walls here. I wanted this kind of closed off here, not closed off, but I wanted it divided a little bit. And we had a framer come, and he's like, "Why do you want to do all that? That's so much extra work." But then once he got studying it, he said and I didn't know this, I mean, I just drew it up, but he said, by doing it this way, we saved ourselves thousands of dollars that we would have had to spend to do some more support upstairs. But by putting in these walls here and here, we then supported the roof in the way that it needed to be. So it worked out, you know, it gave me the room that I wanted. Because, I mean, the room's little, but I wanted to have the bed so it's kind of in a little alcove. And then I did these little, had these little built-in nightstands made. I found this guy on Etsy, actually, that made these. And I love these because I couldn't put nightstands here. I kept buying nightstands, and I'd bring them in, and the floors are so wonky that they looked ridiculous. And I couldn't have that. I have to have that level plane for my nightstands. So this was the answer. So they're mounted here, and they're mounted here. So they have good support, and they give us one drawer, and then I have storage for our, you know, throw pillows and our throws underneath. So that it works well. And then the bed is all storage underneath, so that works really well. And a funny story for this room, if you've seen the stairwell, there's no way to get furniture up that stairwell, let alone a mattress. So that was a problem. So when we got the windows, what I bought was, these are actually what they call drywall windows, where they're able to come out. So we can take these windows out. And to get our mattress in here, it had to be craned in. And luckily, I come from a rigging family, so I have a crane at my access. Or I don't know what we would have done, because there's no getting a mattress up here. And my brother came over with the crane. And of course, on the day he comes with the crane, the wind picked up, and here's our mattress, like, whew. I mean, they're so good with the crane. Like, they have everything under control. And my husband took the window out. So my husband's standing out here on the roof. I was having a heart attack. I'm like, oh my God, he's gonna fall off, you know, and here's this big mattress coming at him. But we managed to get it in and get settled. And then the other issue was the painting, and which is up here. All through the move, I wasn't focusing on that painting. It was hanging in my living room, and I honestly didn't give it any thought until we were really like getting to the end of the move. And I'm like, what am I going to do? Because there's no way it's coming up here. It's not going to come up the steps. So what I ended up doing was taking it off I took the canvas off the frame, and we just mounted it to the wall. Then my husband built the trim around the edge of it. And actually, I love it like that. And it worked out. It worked out really well. Another flower that he can't stand, but that's what I do. I can't help it. And so he's fine with it. But we had to, a couple years ago, we had to replace our mattress. So I had to call up my brother. Of course, he came, and we had to take the window out again, and we switched the mattress. But you know, at least we have that, so we do have access. And everything else I have, I make sure it's small enough. I don't like a lot of furniture. Like I don't like bedroom sets and dressers. I mean, I have 2 dressers over there, but that's about as far as I'm going to go with that kind of furniture. And we were able to get them up without a problem. But move over here, I want to show you. This is like my little dressing area. I have my dressing table, and then my husband built this great little nook over here, which works out when the kids were a little bit smaller. I could always squeeze one of they're all getting too big now. They're all men and women now, but you know, somebody could sleep here, and makes just a great little place, because in the winter the porch gets too cold and you really can't sit out there, and I like to sit and read. So this is my winter spot. I have the porch in the summer and the spring, and then this is where I come in the winter time. But it's beautiful because the view out to the river is amazing, and then you can see the garden, and it's just a beautiful place. And then the floors, we kept the original floors up here, and the funny thing, you know, with the floors, like I love the floors downstairs, and I painted these again, that knitting needles from Sherwin-Williams. But my husband hated the floors. He hated it downstairs. I loved it. I had the gray floors all throughout downstairs, but he hated it. He said it reminded him of his aunt's shack when he was growing up, and he said, I can't live with that. So, but he let me leave it up here, and I love them. You know, I like I said earlier, you know, I love this house, warts and all. I don't care. Every little chip, it just kind of tells a story. It has soul, and it just speaks to me, and it just makes me happy. It's not perfect. I mean, there's nothing perfect in this house, which I'm not perfect. You know, I love good design. Don't get me wrong. Well, I love good design, but the imperfections is what gives it that soul and just makes it warm and comforting, and you feel like you can sit anywhere, you can touch anything. You know, nothing is really off limits, I should say. And but I really love it, and it's worked out just fine for us. So we'll go on downstairs, and I'll show you the back patio. Before we head out to the patio, I got to tell you a funny story about these steps. The day we were here looking at it, you know, we get upstairs, and they had beds everywhere in this house, twin-size beds, which you could get the twin up and down, no problem. It was almost like a dormitory, it felt like. Because I think they were trying to rent it out to people, like to come for a vacation house, because it was brochures and things, I don't know. But my brother said, oh, well, he said, you ought to take one of those mattresses and attach it to that wall down there, so when you fall down the steps, at least you're going to fall into something soft. But we've been good. We've gotten used to them. When I first used to come up the steps, I was so short of breath I couldn't take it, because they're really steep and they're high and they're short. So it takes some getting used to it, but I love them. I mean, they're all uneven and they're worn. You can actually see the wear marks from the feet, you know, from people coming up and down the steps. I mean, the house is over 100 years old, but I wouldn't change it for the world. I said, warts and all. I love her like she is. So come on, we'll go down and look at the back porch. Well, welcome to our new porch. It's been a labor of love, but we're almost finished. It's not quite finished yet. It's my husband. He's already out here enjoying the porch, enjoying the breeze, and we get these beautiful breezes coming off the river. It's just amazing. We love it out here. It's just a beautiful place to sit and relax. I want to tell you a minute about this chaise lounge. My parents gave me this for one of my birthdays a couple years ago. This is actually an old piece of theirs, and they had it refurbished and powder coated and put the blue and white stripes on it and surprised me with it. But I grew up with that. They used to be, I think they were yellow and white way back in the day, but I just love it. It's so comfortable, and I just think it's so pretty. And then the coffee table was theirs too. And my dad was tired of it, so I said, well, I'll take that. And I have a newfound love. It's called powder coating, because I used to spray paint everything for years, till I got to the point I said, my lungs have to be 75% spray paint. So I found this company, they do powder coat. because every year I was spraying that white. And so they powder coat it, and then you're not painting it again. So, and the same with the chairs. The chairs were, I forget where I got them, but I paid $5 a piece for those chairs. And then we had them powder coated, and then we had to re-strap the bottom. When they powder coated, the guys cut the straps off, and it was so complicated to put the straps back on. So I had to take it, I forget what it was like 2 hours from here up north to find a place that would restrap them, but they restrapped them for us. I found the cushions actually on Amazon, but they've worked out. They made a nice little seating area back here. And then the table, this is actually my father. My father's a wood hoarder, let's say. And this was part of his collection. And years ago, I don't know, I was kind of going through this time where I like to he gave me a grinder, and I would sit and just grind on the wood, like grind that finish. I probably should have never used a grinder on it, but that's what he showed me to do. And I took the grinder to, and I love how it came up. But, and we had it in the house for years. We had it in our other house. But when we came over here, we had put it out in our greenhouse for a little while. I didn't really have a spot for it anymore. And it started to fade, this gray, and I love it. So when we were working on the porch, I always knew in my heart that's where this was going to settle, and I just love it. And then the branches are curly willow out of my curly willow tree, which I have a little story about that, because during the process of getting this house, it took us many, many months, over 4 months to get this house. It was, I don't know why it took so long, but that's what happened. I said, this house is a study in delayed gratification. And during that time, my husband used to walk down here, and he'd walk around the property and he'd pray. And so one day he comes back and he says, you know, I think that's really going to be our house, because he said, right off of the porch is a curly willow tree, which is my favorite. I always wanted a curly willow tree because I like to do things with flowers, and I always like curly willow. And he said, there's irises everywhere. And he said the irises are, you know, that the irises are his mother's favorite. So he said, I really think this is going to be our house. And it was two things I hadn't seen. You know, I hadn't really studied the outside. I was just, I mean, I hadn't studied the yard. I was just studying the house in my mind, but not the yard. So the curly willow tree worked out beautiful in there. And I just love the lines of a curly willow branch. I think they're so pretty. So, and then we lead out down to our garden. This is our vegetable garden, which has evolved over the years. It keeps kind of growing. I do a lot of canning and dehydrating. And we grow a lot of different varieties of tomatoes. I try to grow things that I can't get at the grocery store, and my herbs. And it's just grown and evolved over the years. And the view is beautiful, and the breeze, and it's a beautiful place to be, and I feel so blessed to be able to call this place home. Home is it's where there's comfort, there's peace, and like I said earlier, there's soul, and there's a connection. You know, it's not found in just a beautiful house. That's not the goal. You know, I've been an interior designer. I've been in this business for many, many years. You know, and I've seen many a beautiful house, but not every house is a home. And how soul is created, it's through how you live your life in that house. What are you doing to contribute? Not just making it beautiful. It goes way beyond beauty and decorating and perfecting the design of your home. It's how do you live in your home? It's how we live. Like, how is our life? What do we do? And it's the beauty of how we live our lives. And to me, home is just, it's everything. Like when I go somewhere and I come down that road and I see my little house, it's a sanctuary where I'm completely at peace and I feel so much joy, and it's just a wonderful place to be. And home is everything to me. And I don't care anything in the world. I'm happy to just come back here, and I'm happy to be here, and I love it.
Hi, Homeworthy. I'm Celeste. Welcome to my lake home in Michigan. Come on in, I'll show you around.
You're watching Homeworthy, where we believe every home has a story. Like and subscribe for more.
I'm Celeste Robbins, and we're at my lake house in Southwest Michigan. This house was built in 1956. It's a mid-century house. It was designed by Winston Elting, and he was a contemporary of Frank Lloyd Wright and kind of the mid-century architects that were doing work in Chicago. The home has had only 3 owners. I'm the third. It's a simple rectangular house with glass on one side that faces the lake and more solid as it faces the street. It's wrapped with a lot of wood beams, and I wanted the home to feel consistent with the vocabulary of mid-century, but also fresh. So I was really concerned about having pieces that reflected me and not feeling like I was being a slave to any particular style. So the home has different vintage things which I tend to be drawn to, but European, French mid-century pieces, as well as some contemporary pieces. So I placed pieces that I felt were in keeping with the materials that were here. But I didn't feel like the house gave me any constraints. It felt very natural to be able to place things in it. So the house is about 2,200 square feet. So it's really efficient house. There's 3 bedrooms and a study, a kitchen and a great room, which shares the dining table and the seating area. You are able to get a lot of rooms in here because there's not a lot of secondary rooms. There's no mudroom, there's no laundry room. The house is sort of covers just what you need. And I always feel like it kind of reminds me of how much you can accomplish in a small footprint. It also sits on 2.5 acres with a beautiful beach. And so it kind of has both that cozy, inside the house feel, as well as this whole place to kind of retreat to and walk on the beach and plant flowers and, just get away. This is the entry and the great room, and really the entry of the house. There's not a formal entryway, but upon entering the house, you have this beautiful lake view and dining table, and you'll also see the table outside. So these spaces really kind of work together. So the dining table is really more than a dining table in our house. We use it for puzzles and games, and a lot of time in the evenings we're kind of hanging out here before we go over to the living space. My tip for hosting is to have a go-to meal that you know how to prepare. So I'm not that comfortable doing a lot of entertaining, so I've just made sure that I'm really good at a few things. So I make bacon wrapped dates, and I cook salmon with a beautiful green goddess sauce and a quinoa as a side dish. And then I usually like to have something that everybody can participate in. This is not the kind of house where you're serving people. People are kind of joining in. So it's a lot about kind of cooking together. We play board games. We play a game that's similar to Rummy. Another one that we play is Phase 10, which is super easy. And a lot of people, if you don't know how to play it, can play it. So we have a whole closet full of games. So it kind of depends on our guests and what they might know how to do. And I found that people may kind of be a little bit worried about the idea of when you suggest a game, and they always end up having a lot of fun. It's a lot of laughs, and people get so used to just watching TV, and it's just, we don't have a TV here. We have our fun outside and eat, and it usually works out to be a lot of fun to have a game. And one of the really cool things about this room that I really love is how the fireplace is off to one edge. The architect that did the home was really kind of looking at balance and not a formal symmetry. So the fireplace is pushed to one edge, which gives you this large window. As you come down the hallway, when you see the rest of the house, you always have that view out. But what this creates is this cozy little nook that we love. So after you've had a whole day at the beach, you have this ability to kind of nestle up in the edge here near the fireplace. And the original home had the built-in seating and the shelves. I didn't do any changes to that other than reupholstering. But then I came up with my own kind of living space. I designed these ottomans to be something soft to really bring in the center. I felt like there was a lot of hard surfaces with the fireplace, and I wanted something soft to kind of ground this seating grouping. And so a lot of times people are kind of laying down over here, napping, snuggling up in this chair, or we can seat a large group. So it really works for a number of different people. Over on this edge is another table, which is kind of great because if we ever need to have a large group, this has leaves, but we can really use this to set up a puzzle so you don't have to take it apart for dining. It's a great place to sit with your iPad, and it's tucked in the corner, but this is sort of like a beautiful view out the large windows of the great room. I fell in love with this home. I was first introduced to the home as someone called me about doing a project here. They wanted to renovate it, and they were interviewing different architects, and I just felt like this is my house. Like I just know how to do this house because I had originally, the first house that we had as a family was a mid-century house. So this was very familiar to me. In fact, it has a lot of similar qualities as that house. And it turns out that they didn't buy the house. And so when I knew it was available, we came up and looked at the house and decided to purchase it within 30 minutes. It has sort of everything you'd want, at least for our family. It has the architecture, all windows, which is just something that's kind of my vocabulary, connection to nature, connection to the outdoors, the warmth, layered in with modernism, which I really love to be able to communicate to people how modern architecture can be warm, and I feel like this house is a perfect example of that. And it's not just because of the wood, it's sort of the whole package. So I immediately loved it. It did look a little different. There were porcelain tile floors. The kitchen I redid the kitchen, the bathrooms. We replaced the wood on the walls to be a little cleaner and more polished. So it has sort of changed the feel of the house, but it's the same house, just a little bit more crisp. So one of the things I love are these large sliding doors. And you have to kind of remind yourself this house was designed in 1956. So having these large 7-foot doors slide with ease is a really wonderful kind of idea about moving inside and outside. So we spent a lot of time out here, and it has the same idea as the great room, where we have a dining space that's shared with the living space. I added this outdoor kitchen, so it has refrigerator, drawers, and another refrigerator and an ice maker, and we set up and always have a buffet here. So this is a really fun area, and we also have another fireplace. So there's 3 fireplaces in the house: the kitchen, the great room, and then also one on the terrace. So wherever you're kind of gathering, there's sort of this idea about leisure, and I feel like that's one of the things that's not hard to forget when you're at this house. So I am a big fan of Sutherland furniture. I think they have beautiful designs. It's got perennial fabrics. But what I really love is I want to make a big moment, I don't want a bunch of pieces of furniture. I want to connect it. This is a really nice way to have a lot of people seat, and it just feels inviting, like a gathering space. So this is used pretty much all the time, whether I'm by myself or whether we have a huge group over. So this is our access to get down to the beach. And I just planted these plants here, which are butterfly plants. And it's really magical to be able to go down to the beach and have these butterflies and kind of wind down. But our property also goes over to this little peninsula, and this is really where we go to enjoy the sunsets. So I purposely didn't put any furniture out here because I like the idea of just bringing a blanket out and sitting on the grass and relaxing after the end of the day. And you really get to look over this point and look down the beach. My personal style is pieces that are interesting, that go together but don't look like they were found all at the same time. I like to feel like it looks layered and evolved, and it kind of did, because every piece was really fun to be able to kind of search for. But a lot of the pieces I found were not necessarily, I didn't know where they were always going to go. Sometimes I'd find a piece and then move it around into a different room, and I like having that kind of flexibility. I think it's always feels warm when you go into a house, and it feels that people might tinker around in it, you know, like you're going to move some vase because you've got some, you know, new object or new book or new ottoman. And so I feel like the house looks kind of casual in that sense, but each piece is really interesting. What I love most about this home is that it feels like me. I walk in the door and it is me, because I put every single thing in here and everything was chosen with love, and the architecture feels like me, but I didn't do it. I feel like I'm kind of living in another architect's passion, and I feel really honored about that. And I feel like I'm here studying and thinking about what that decision was, and it kind of inspires me. I feel like I'm learning from it. I love to just be here and tinker around. So it's not one particular thing. It's just when I walk in the door, I feel happiness. I don't think it's just me. The house has a great energy, and I think anybody that comes here knows how much I love it, and I think that that comes through. And I think it, you know, it's just a really lovely scale and really easy living layout. And so I don't think I have a favorite part, but I guess if I had to pick one favorite thing that I'll definitely want to try to do, no, two favorite things that I want to try to do in a project that is not something I've done before, is most of our projects tend to be bigger homes, and we use the house to kind of create outdoor courtyards and spaces. And this home is very small and edited. It's a rectangle, very simple. But what Winston Elting did was he carved into that rectangle courtyards. And so rather than the home having an organic shape and creating spaces, it's a very regular shape, and these kind of courtyards bite into the house, and nature just sort of folds into this environment, and I love that. So I feel like that's an inspiration. And the second thing is this tiny little slot of a window where the shelves kind of overlap it. I think that's a really nice detail that I'm sure I'll find in some project somewhere. Another element that I love is this slot window on the edge that just kind of gives you a peekaboo moment and lightens up this area. So during the day when the sun comes in, the sun illuminates the fireplace and kind of washes in, creating something that could have been a dark corner, and by creating that small little slot of glass really enlivens it. So as for the furniture, I really love the pieces that have a lot of sculptural quality. One of the things you'll notice is, for an architect, these pieces are very soft. I'm not looking for things with hard edges. I'm looking for things that have curved backs, because you see the back of them. I think it's really important to be able to not have a space feel like a rectangle within a rectangular room. So I always choose soft pieces and things with an interesting back. These are Scandinavian, this is a Scandinavian chair in sheepskin or shearling. These are two chairs from the 60s that are from France. And I covered them in a light linen. So everything that you see here is all natural materials. I felt that that was really important when you have such a strong connection to the outdoors, is to bring things that also felt really natural within the house. The two ottomans are done to create something soft to gather around. I didn't want a hard surface that would compete with the fireplace. I felt like it would be more cozy to have these ottomans. They're covered with velvet. So I would say I'm not looking for practical materials. I like things that feel luxurious. I like things that feel soft and natural. And if it gets damaged, it's part of the life of the home and it looks lived in. So for me, I'm not afraid of using a really beautiful material in the house. This is an alpaca rug. It feels amazing on your feet, and we are barefoot a lot. So I've enjoyed that. Here, I'm really grounding the table under this pendant light. It's also on axis with the table that's outside. So there's a really strong connection that pulls your eye from indoor and outdoor, but it feels very inviting and welcoming to this area. So I think it's really important that when you do a room that shares spaces, that they feel inviting to be able to get into. So there's no hard edge with the furniture creating something that feels like another room. It feels like one big room. And in fact, I went out of my way, and I usually do this in our projects, is think it's really important to use one big rug. That's really telling people when they come in here, this is one room. If this was a little area rug over there, it would feel more broken up. And I don't want people to feel like they're in sections when they're in the room. I want it to feel like one big space. That makes it feel grand and anchors the house. So this is the room that everybody knows is the gathering space. I grew up in Ohio, and I was not one of those people that knew they wanted to be an architect. A lot of architects kind of know from the time they're a child, but now looking back on it, it makes sense, because as a child I was constantly building forts out of blankets or cardboard or pieces of wood around a tree. So I really loved to be able to kind of think about space as a child, but it was introduced to me as I was ready to enter college. I was thinking about engineering because I was good at math, and my dad was an engineer. So I was thinking about engineering, but my dad took me to an architect's office, and when I saw what they were doing and then spoke to my art teacher, that really inspired me. So I ultimately chose architecture. I've had my own practice for 28 years now, and that started when my son was born. So I wanted to be able to do my career and have flexibility. And so shortly after he was born, I was doing projects from the house. So for 8 years, I practiced on my own with two little kids, kind of in the basement of my house. And you know, I had help, but most of my work was done after I put them to bed, so about 7:30 till 1 in the morning. And I loved it. I would never do it any differently. It was a lot of fun to be able to have the time with my kids and then also have my own time at the end of the day. And I did that for 8 years. And I feel like that really helped my career because I really understood what it meant to do every phase of the project, because I did every phase of the project, from the business to the construction drawings to everything. And now I have 9 people in the firm, and we do work all over the country. And I think that all came from just a passion for how much I love what I do. Now I'll take you into the kitchen, but I want to show you this first. So sometimes you can find pieces, but sometimes you can't find just what you're looking for. So I designed this table, and again, this has a soft shape. So it's got curved edges, it's wider on this end, so it feels really organic. When you come in the door, you're not walking into a hard corner. This piece of art is also something that sometimes it's not just the hard surfaces of the architecture or the furnishings. Sometimes you pull together spaces with the art. And this dark stained wood starts to help tie in the kitchen. As you get there, you're going to see that I use darker wood in there, and it's also on the floor. And just kind of a little note, I love to compose things. So a lot of times I'm just sort of composing things on a table, and later I look at it and I realize that I've really responded to different shapes that I see together. So the lines on this piece of art is picked up by these candlesticks, and the shape of this bowl you see is kind of a shape of this artwork. So I think it's really interesting to not always have an obvious tie-in. It's kind of subconscious, but having these different geometries that get composed together. So we can go into the kitchen now. The one thing that's so great is that there is no wall. This is a very modern way to tie spaces together. The window wall slides through on the edge, so these rooms aren't defined by four corners. This is open and flowing, and it's inviting to always let you feel part of this space. So as you can see, the glass is sliding through and carrying itself from the great room over to the kitchen. And the living area has a fireplace, but one of the things that is really special about this house is there's also a fireplace in the kitchen. I think it's such a luxury, and it really treats the kitchen as a living space and not just a space that does cooking and work. This is a space that we gather, and it's kind of small, but it works really well for me. So I always want a kitchen to feel like a living space. It's a space that people always gather, and I always want it to feel like it's part of the home. So I love to hide appliances so that it just feels more calm and it feels more elegant to me. So hidden behind the panel there is the refrigerator. And over on this side is the oven and cooktop that I've hidden behind doors. It gives this beautiful elevation so that the fireplace can be the star. But if I need to cook, this opens up, and the cooktop and the oven are behind the doors. I also have things that I love for display, because we all know that this ends up open more often than it does close because you're usually using it. So one of the things I did in the kitchen when I renovated it, besides putting the oven and the cooktop behind the doors, was I moved the refrigerator over here, and I made a really shallow cabinet here. And what that did for me was it allowed me to extend the island to be a longer space, which I wanted. But I love having these shallow spaces. It becomes kind of decorative. And within all of this, it's really not just about dishes. You can see that I've really kind of filled the shelves with things that I love. So I looked for things that had pink in it, and a lot of the glasses have pink because that was kind of the idea in the home. And I have little objects that I also have collected. This is a Japanese candy maker. I love the stained color, this wood, and I love having the idea of a bird. So I think it's fun for people when they come to someone's house is to feel like they get to know a little part of you. So composed within here are things that I love. And I think over time it'll probably shift around, but that's what I have right now. I think what gives a home a soul are a number of things, and I have the book that's going to be coming out called The Meaningful Modern Home, which is kind of all about that. And what gives a home a soul for me is I'm a pleaser, so I'm really work hard to make sure that the home is what the clients want. And I think when the house is born from their wishes, people can feel that. You know, you can feel that that home is about that person, and there's an authenticity to it that I think gives the home soul. So I have a lot of confidence in what I do in terms of design. I'm not afraid of clients' input. I actually encourage it. I feel like it's kind of that marriage between the hard sort of like request that they might have and saying yes to it that gives the home a richness and kind of the soul that you want. If it was all perfectly resolved and to the point of an architectural theory, that's great for maybe someone else, but not that person. So I really feel like just being honest and trying really hard to make sure the home lives for them brings it the soul. So this hallway packs a lot of function, and connects all the 3 bedrooms. So behind this is a stackable washer and dryer. And behind this is a Miele espresso maker. So this opens up and pockets back. And people love having their own section as a guest to come and make their own coffee. We'll go down the hall here. This is the primary bedroom and the largest of the bedrooms. And what you'll notice is there's glass on both sides. So this is one of the intimate courtyards that the architect planned within this really simple rectangle. So it's kind of features a Japanese maple and some rocks. This is completely enclosed, so I could have these shades open and it's completely private. And at night there's a light on that tree and it's just stunning. Over on the other side is another wall of glass. So there's 2 walls of glass in this bedroom, and this is the lake view. I chose a palette of just very neutral colors in this room with little accents of soft pink to play off the brick wall. So this is kind of a collection of different textures and neutrals. And then it can really play up kind of these details where this is a coverlet that has a viney embroidery. And I had these playful little pillows that have little embroidered flowers on it. I like having such a feminine quality. I think it's a nice kind of contradiction in a modern house to play up something that you might have seen in your grandma's house. To me, that just feels soft and unexpected, which I like. I don't want the house to feel like a formula. The other thing that I added is this really beautiful organic table. And again, I'm always trying to kind of have this play between inside and outside, so it feels really natural to place these really organic pieces inside. And again, I love the little collection, this beautiful ceramic lamp, and the piece of art is just a composition that kind of really sits in front of the brick wall. I love glass. It's in our projects. I want to feel nature and where I am. I want to feel the seasons. I want the light to come in. To me, that feels warm. I'm not intimidated by the transparency of a glass room. I want to feel a part of the outside. And when you have a property with so much beautiful nature around you, I love that after I walked on the beach and I come in the house, I didn't have to say goodbye. It's kind of all there. And it's just a different experience. Now I'm in air conditioning. I'm gonna say that my favorite season is summer, even if that's super obvious, because it's a lake house. Fall is fantastic, but the lake has, you know, being on the lake, and I come up here all the time, so all through the year, there is not just a summer, it's not a summer house for me. I appreciate all the seasons, but this summer, it just brings more guests, and the lake is a little quieter. In the winter, the lake can have kind of a aggressive tone, and winds coming off the lake can be, you know, strong. And I love to snuggle and cuddle up on a cold day in this house, but I have to say my favorite season is summer. Okay, so one of the special aspects of this courtyard is having 2 glass walls. So you get the glass on each side of the bedroom, but this glass folds in and becomes a glass wall in the bathroom as well, which feels really luxurious to have floor-to-ceiling glass with absolute no compromise in privacy, because it's my own little intimate courtyard. And again, looking at the tree, birds have come in here and you get to kind of watch that as you're getting dressed. And again, when it's lit in the evening, it's just such a beautiful kind of focal point within a small little room. One of the areas that I kept in this project was all the wood that was existing, this idea. We replaced the wood, and I chose to do this pink quartzite. I loved how animated it was. This is not probably something you would have seen in a mid-century house, but I felt that the pink really tied in with the brick. And again, I want to celebrate nature, and I always feel like stone has such a beautiful quality to remind us of history and kind of the earth and what it creates for us. So in addition to the bedrooms, there's a study, which is just such a nice thing to have in a house where you now can work from home. So this was a kind of a dark space when we got to here. I added that window in the corner, which really lightened up the back side of the house. And I covered the wall with a fabric that has this beautiful color that also matches the brick to lighten it up, so it didn't feel like too much wood. And it's very simple desk and simple shelves that I added to kind of mimic the shelves that you see out in the living space. So I feel like you might have thought the other architect would have added this, but this was all kind of an intervention that I used and just was informed by what was existing in the house. This is also kind of the back door to the garage. There, it focuses on a courtyard again, so it has a lot of light, and there's never an area in the house where you don't feel like you have a connection to nature. This is a chair that I found on First Dibs. That's a Scandinavian chair. I had it covered in linen, and what I think is so cool about it is the leather and the side area to have a drink. So it sort of has your whole little relaxing moment in one. But I also added this lamp that is by Charles Zana that has this really sculptural shade. And I love just this whole idea that it's very low and relaxing in this one little corner of the office. Home for me is a place that you recharge. It's a place that you're in complete serenity. It's your place that you're at peace with, and that you can relax with, that you can bring company in and feel comfortable doing so. It's not too precious. It feels part of the surrounding, so that I think nature does bring a serenity and kind of a sense of peace. So I feel like incorporating that into the house is kind of all part of our language.
Hey Homeworthy, I'm Lisa. Welcome to my lake house in North Carolina. I'd love to show you around. My name is Lisa Sherry, and I'm the principal designer and creative director at Lisa Sherry Interiors. We are 30 minutes north of Charlotte, but a million miles away. We're at my lake home. I also have a townhouse in the city, but we're on Lake Norman, just north of the city. I share my lake home with my partner, Jonathan, and between the two of us, we have 6 children that are adults that come and go. We share it with lots of friends. We love to entertain, and it's also great for us just as a respite and a getaway from our busy lives in the city. So my home is a 1990s home, nothing terribly exciting, but through my renovations, I was able to modernize it by taking out the arches, lots of trim work that I removed, just sort of deconstructing and simplifying it to just have a much more modern, simple, classic feel to it. Welcome to my living room. I love this space because I was able to take out walls between the kitchen, a second bedroom, and just opened it all up into one big space. There's amazing natural light. The views of the lake are spectacular. So it's really a big open space for living. This fireplace was a very typical 1990s traditional surround, and I was able to update it by, just boxing it in, creating this modern surround, and then covered it with plaster. I love this little built-in bench seat that I created. It's a wonderful little place to sit and read a book. have a view of the lake and, this nice thick cushion, comfy pillows, just a great little built-in floating bench. I've been doing interior design for probably 20, 30 years. I have an unusual background, which was initially in photo styling, and one thing led to another, and I was able to start doing clients' homes. We primarily do residential design, and our clients are all over the United States. We do large projects from ground up new construction to renovations to some projects where clients just need furniture. So at Lisa Sherry Interiors, we're known for our calm, neutral interiors. Our clients come to us for sort of a lifestyle that we've created. We love to use natural light. We love texture. We're all about mixing modern and organic together. And again, natural light's so important. I love to keep everything light and bright and textural. That being said, we also, mix in grays and browns and colors from nature. We love mixing in the five senses. What are you smelling? What candles do you have? What are you cooking? How are you using your space? How do you live? Interior design is our main business, but it's really about creating a beautiful life for our clients. And thus we, love to incorporate so many different elements that are really about creating the beautiful home, which then creates a beautiful life. My own home is also my creative lab. So, the beautiful thing about designing my own spaces is that I get to try things and experiment a little bit with what we might want to do for our clients. But, can we do it? Can we not do it? It's always a great opportunity to try new things with my own spaces. And we're all about slow living. So here at the lake, Jonathan and I are, our day-to-day lives are so busy. So we love coming up here and just kicking back and practicing that slow living on the weekends or whenever we get that opportunity to be able to kick back and just enjoy and relax. Rather than doing a piece of art over this bench, I found this wonderful sculptured light. It's beautiful day to day because it's just such an interesting object day art. But at night, it's just beautiful. The light that it emanates is really warm and really special. Texture is always our color. We tend to do a lot of layers. So this chair is a perfect example of, I have this wonderful vintage rattan chair, and then I've layered in the sheepskins, the hemp pillow. So it's really a lot of different layers and a lot of different textures. Since we do a lot of neutrals, we don't want things to feel too unbalanced or feel too stark. So the textures really add all the dimension in the layer. I love this rug. I love texture. I love the little bit of, it's got some dimension to it. Again, all about textures, extra fluffy, extra soft. This room is great summer and winter. The textures really work well. They're very seasonless. So the texture of the rug, I love the gesso quality of this table. It's just got such a nice hand and texture to it. For us, it's all about the edit. So when we're styling, accessories are really important for us. And for myself, obviously, it's things that I collect. Like I found these feathers when I'm out walking at the lake. And, we're always like adding more and then scaling back so that it's simple, it's not too much, it's balanced, it's scale, it's texture. The great thing about this chair is the texture of the fabric. And I love swivel chairs. I feel like swivel chairs allow you to have conversations from one room to another. So like if we're entertaining, and someone's sitting here, they can easily, respond to when I'm cooking and feel engaged. I also love the back of this chair rather than just like having a back that could be boring. This one's really beautiful. The lines of it are really special. Well, the great thing about this sofa is that it's perfect for napping, and sofas get a lot of use, especially for us because, we're lounging. watching TV from here. I like this particular sofa because I love just the cotton duck fabric. It's a slip cover, so it's easy to take off and wash. And then I love, even in the summertime, I mean, the layered sheepskins are great, just adding that extra texture. These beautiful textured pillows. I love adding just that little hint of brown in it, just adds a little depth to and balances the white of the sofa. I love mixing in all organic objects. So this beautiful wooden ladder, and then layering books and magazines on it. The texture of the straw is a nice element that blends well. And then this global tribal basket is such a beautiful piece. So I love to just mix and layer pieces just for interest and, just creating a little moment here. I'm always looking for inspiration. So these are a few of my favorite magazines. I tend to be drawn to European magazines that have lots of texture and interesting design ideas. So this is a really special piece that I love. It's really my memory wall. We have Polaroid cameras, so whenever someone comes to visit, we do impromptu photos of everyone, and then we just tape them up to the wall. So it's really fun. Everyone that comes gets to see who's been here, and everyone that comes gets a photograph on the wall. So this whole section was a wall. The kitchen was very small. All of this was a wall going this way. I just wanted to be able to open up the space for more light, for more easy entertaining, so that we could really be engaged with our family and friends that are here. If you're in the living room and Jonathan and I are cooking, we're able to easily all feel like we're part of the same group. It's really wonderful. And then in this section here, which is now the dining room, this was actually a guest bedroom. So I also removed this wall and opened it up to create this beautiful dining room and additional kitchen space. Welcome to my kitchen. I love my kitchen. It's just exactly what I had envisioned, which is just a very simple non-kitchen. I wanted things to disappear. I wanted it to feel, since it's all one room, that these are pieces of furniture. I did this countertop, which is a Caesar stone concrete that's in a honed finish. So it really just is very quiet. I did some textured white cabinetry that, again, just adds a little bit of a texture relief when you see it in the light. I added these beautiful open shelves that are salvaged wood. It's got a really beautiful hand, from a life before, which I love mixing in. And the hood, just a really simple boxed in hood. Everything very sleek and very minimal, but nothing that's too cold. I love my pendants. I made these out of baskets. So they're a really beautiful woven rattan. They've got some nice extra straw hanging down, just very fun and very textural. Typically, when we do open shelving, we'll do sconces, but I really wanted something just kind of simple and a nod to just a little sculptural element. So I love these light fixtures that are just the back plate that's in black and with a glass globe. Really nice ambient lighting. One of the ways that I like to help my clients in designing kitchens is to be able to integrate everything. This dishwasher, for example, is panel ready. So you really can't tell. The trash is integrated and the refrigerator is integrated as well. When I designed the kitchen, I also made a symmetrical pantry on the other side that looks identical to the refrigerator, so it's hard to tell where it is. So by hiding these elements, it just looks like one cohesive grouping of cabinets. From the kitchen is the dining room, and here in the dining room, I really just wanted a big, long table, because when we do have a lot of people here, it's great to just be able to all cozy up to the table. I wanted something that was really warm and organic, and again, textural. I love the, mixing in the woods with the all-white kitchen, and it's just, sort of that farmhouse style. I love these director chairs. It's just a classic sort of beachy water lake feel with the canvas backs, and then layered in pillows just for an additional layer. The other function of this great table is that it's perfect for lots of games and puzzles. We're always playing cards and games with our friends, so it's multifunctional for sure. I added this light fixture. I wanted something that was really sleek. I wanted to, juxtapose all the rough-hewn wood and balance it with something that was, very sleek and clean and modern and white. Styling for a table is always fun. I really love accessories, and I've just mixed in a few different layering pieces here. We've got this nice, warm little riser, wood piece mixed with the clay terracotta. This vase is actually a water pitcher, but it's got this beautiful rattan layered texture on it. And then I'll just go outside and cut branches from the yard. Again, I love to just bring in natural elements, and so you can go to your yard and cut all kinds of things to be able to add an extra layer in. These are some little herbs from my herb garden mixed with this little vintage glass cut tiny vase. And then, of course, always a wonderful candle because we love smells. I love water, and I have to be surrounded by water. I owned a beach house for almost 20 years. And then when I discovered Lake Norman, I thought, gosh, it would be really fun to just have that experience of the lake. So it's been a really fun adventure to see what lake life is about, and having the views of the water every day is just really special. It's also my respite for, when Jonathan and I are looking to get away. Our day-to-day lives are really busy, so we come up here and it's a bit of our awe factor just to be able to be surrounded by water and lots of nature. I had this large wall here, and I thought about putting art. It wasn't very deep. It's only about 9 inches deep, but I also needed storage. So I thought it would be really great to just, again, integrate cabinetry, and it affords me so much storage. So it's a really perfect place for all my dishes and glassware. Not very deep, but it's wonderful storage. This pantry mirrors the refrigerator, so I designed it so that they would both look identical and you can't tell which is which, but this is actually a really wonderful pantry, great storage. Again, all integrated in so that you can't really tell what's what. Beautiful texture. When I design kitchens, I always love to integrate a coffee bar. It spreads out your function of your kitchen by having it in a separate area. And typically they're coffee in the morning, and then they transition to cocktails and wine at night. So we'll add beverage refrigerators, which are great for having all your milks, waters for drinks, everything you need. Again, more of these beautiful old salvaged wood thick shelves. They've got great character to them. And then I love, just the mix of having the clear glassware as a juxtaposition. And now follow me. I'd love to show you my foyer. Come on. The foyer is the first thing you see when you come in the front door. I have this vintage piece that I found. I fell in love with it because it was just such an unusual find. Sometimes I pick up pieces that I'm not sure what I'm going to do with them, but if I love them, I make a home for them. And I thought this could be perfect in the entry. It's got all these great little dividers, almost like a little vintage school locker. So we keep our hats and our golf shoes and sunglasses, and it's just a nice element for organization. It's got a little bit of beautiful patina to it, So I always call it the perfection of imperfection. You know, I don't like anything that's too clean, and I like to balance it and juxtapose. This hat rack is, as you can see, we need lots of hats at the lake. So, and I'm kind of a collector of hats. I wear them a lot. We've got tons of bags when we go down to our little beach, or when we're going out on the boat. It's great to grab a bag, grab your sunscreen and a towel, and just have everything really handy. And I love how it looks in the foyer because it just adds a nice element of like what's to come in the house, which is all about all kinds of textures mixed in. I love this light fixture in the foyer. It's a little bit like a wig. It's made of straw. It's wonderful. It's just such a fun, beautiful piece to layer in. I like how dark it is, balancing all the white. And then my Moroccan runner, I'm obsessed with textures, and I love Moroccan rugs. They're always, vintage and one-of-a-kind finds. And then another little mirror. I like to mix in mirrors because I think they're a great reflection to the room, adding a little dimension. When you have art, it becomes two-dimensional, but when you use mirrors, it becomes like moving art. And then this one with the straw texture is, again, just makes it a little happy and fun. Follow me to our primary suite. The primary bedroom is really the inner sanctum for our clients. We love to create spaces that are quiet and restful and peaceful. And for Jonathan and I, it's extremely important. We have this beautiful view of the lake that, when you're lying in bed, it's a great way to wake up in the morning. I love texture, as you know. So these lamps are vintage rice jars. And they just have such a beautiful hand and crackle finish, and balanced with the beautiful wood. The construction of this nightstand is just a beautiful light elm wood. And I love how it's open, but rather than having things out in the open, I've hidden everything with a basket underneath. My bed is made with a beautiful linen fabric. I love the pleating in the back. It's just a nice little special detail. I like for things to be very quiet and simple, but I'm a detail person, so the stitching on the back of the headboard and the height of the headboard is really wonderful. And then just a small little piece of art at the top just kind of accentuates that. The texture of the pillows, we've got this, beautiful fringe. I like for my beds to be almost a little messy, like not too formal, so that you can jump in them at any point. The thing about this bedroom when I purchased the home is, surprisingly enough, it had just a small window to the outside, and there's this beautiful lake view. So my goal for the space was to really be able to open this up to have this massive view. I wanted all glass. So the doors fold all the way back. And when you're lying in bed, the first thing you see in the morning is the lake. So it's a wonderful way to wake up and see the sunrises. I love collecting, and this is a chair that I found. It's a vintage 1970s peacock chair, and it's just a great little accent piece. So, I like adding in layers of pieces that add interest. I thought that this was just the perfect little surprise to add to the bedroom. Now I'd like to show you this table. It's a beautiful, organic, old oak piece, lots of character. And what I like about it, I've really created sort of an altar table. It's all of my really fun found objects, things that Jonathan and I have collected on trips. We have this piece of art that one of Jonathan's sons gave him for his birthday. And then I have this beautiful string art from a friend of mine who does beautiful art. So it's really a collection. We wake up in the morning and it's just a collection of things that we love that again, add more texture and add interest and have sentimental value to us. I love that everything has a purpose, even if it's just to make you smile. I love vintage rugs. This one is another Moroccan rug. It's just a beautiful, it's texture. It's got some nice black and white accents. And I love like the little people. It gives a really great global feel, but it still has a great monochromatic look to it. Now I'd love to show you our primary bathroom. Follow me. This is the primary bathroom, and it was originally very 1990s. It had a big garden tub built in here. I just wasn't a fan of having a big soaking tub, so I really just wanted to have the extra space. I put in this beautiful little wooden vintage Asian bench. It's great for just stacking towels, a nice little element under the windows. When I designed this shower, I wanted to do some digital printing on the glass. So we used a piece of fabric that it looks like linen. So the detail of it is really beautiful, creates a little bit of privacy and nice texture for the space. And then my cabinetry, I wanted to have this warm wood feel. So I have this beautiful hand. It's like a white glazed, just warm texture so that the bathroom didn't feel too cold. And then having this huge mirror with the light built in is really nice and clean, and it expands the bathroom just because of how visually strong the mirror is to be able to expand the space. The art is some photos that we've taken on family vacations. Just always great to have art that's meaningful and special and helps me remember great times in my life. Many times in bathrooms, I'll do multiple sconces, but I just wanted to keep this bathroom very streamlined. So I found this linear sconce that's really simple, slightly industrial, but very modern. And I think it's really just the point of perfect lighting and again, nice juxtaposition to the cabinetry and the countertop. Of course, I have a love of Moroccan rugs, but I especially love runners in a bathroom. I feel like it adds that extra layer of warmth. Bathrooms can tend to be cold, and so I like them to feel like your living room or any other room, and adding a runner is a great way to warm up the space. Now let's head to the guest suite. We're in the guest room now. So if you were a guest staying at our lake house, this would be where you would find yourself. I like to create guest bedrooms that are great little getaways for our guests as well. You're coming to the lake and you're staying here and spending time with us, but it's also nice to be able to have a little getaway for you to be able to relax and enjoy your time alone. So it's really important to have beautiful soft bedding, great down comforters, lots of layers with textured pillows. And in this case, I have this beautiful rattan bed. I love the texture of it. It has sort of a getaway lake feel to it. And then this piece of art, I call it this room, the Picasso room, because a friend of mine's son designed this. He usually does a lot of color, but he designed this piece of art, especially for me, so that it would be neutral and in black and white. And so this room is named the Picasso room. I have this wonderful throw with the beautiful fringe tassels on it. Again, just adding that extra element of layer. The lamps are beautiful textured concrete. So just juxtaposing with the sleek concrete and steel table that's very simple. I love the mixture of the two. Here we have another peacock chair from the 70s. Just, if someone needs a little place to sit, but just adding these special elements that make you smile is really fun to add in. I love having this layered mirror in here. It just adds this great amount of texture, balancing the texture of the headboard. And mirrors are great for reflections and just they act as a window so that it's almost as if you are adding more light to your room by having the reflection of the mirror. In lake houses, it's great to have rugs that can withstand a lot of foot traffic. This one I particularly like. I love stripes. I feel like it gives it that great outdoorsy feel, and the colors are perfect in the space, mixing in the little bit of black and the ochre. Our favorite source for rugs is usually vintage. We really love the vintage finds, and we're always shopping, so we're always looking and sourcing for beautiful rugs that we know that are going to mix into a space. And rugs are also a great way to bring your room together. It's all about whether it's drapes for a space. Rugs are a wonderful way to just add that extra layer of interest, and it warms up the space as well. Now I'll take you into the guest bathroom. Follow me. So this is a small guest bathroom, but I wanted it to be super functional. So I did this really beautiful honed concrete countertop, and it's floating so that it's open, which allows for the space to breathe and just feel a little larger and more open. And then I added these great baskets underneath for towels and for toilet paper, great for stacking towels. And then just to do something a little more unique, I added this pendant hanging asymmetrical. So I love the texture of it. And rather than hanging over the mirror, I just wanted it to almost act as a piece of art and to balance the mirror. One of the fun elements that I added in this bathroom was printing digitally on the glass. And this is a really great saying that I love, that I think is sort of a mantra for my life and certainly for the lake house, but it's practice reckless optimism. It's super fun and just a daily reminder. I love the shower. I used large scale 24 by 48 porcelain tiles that look like concrete and just did minimal grout lines. I just really wanted this shower to feel almost like an outdoor shower and feel like it's all concrete. And then on the floor, I used the same tile but did an octagonal small scale for the floor just to balance it out. Now I'd like to take you to one of my favorite parts of the house, the outside deck. I love this inside-outside living. The great thing about this deck is it's really inside-outside living. We live out here almost 9 months of the year, and it's great to have this wonderful dining table. If it's just the two of us, it's the right size. If we're entertaining, it's perfect. We can add extra chairs in. And we've got these great loungers for just relaxing and reading. And then we have the living room area out here as well. The views of the lake are extraordinary, and the sunshine in the wintertime is so beautiful. For my table, I like to start with flowers or greenery, and it's great to just go out to your yard and cut branches, bringing nature in, just a big glass vase or any kind of vase that you have. Adding objects that are interesting are always a fun layering. Adding a little, but not too much. It's all about the edit, as I always say. And then I have these really great textured placemats and linen napkins. So, and of course, with a bottle of wine, we're ready to entertain at any moment. I love this seating grouping that I have. It's just so wonderful, again, for napping and relaxing with friends. It's really our outdoor living room. So we're reading out here, sitting back, and just enjoying the lake view. Home to me is so special. It's really the place that I kick back and recharge. And for Jonathan and I, it's just so important, you know, in our day-to-day busy lives to be able to have a place that we're able to kick back, relax. We love to entertain. And it's, you know, I always believe in slow living. So when we're going 100 miles an hour, it's great to be able to just kind of kick back and relax here. Well, Homeworthy, thanks for coming to my lake house. We'll see you next time.
Hi, Homeworthy. I'm Jill Neubauer. Welcome to my home, Lucky Pines. You're on Cape Cod, and I look forward to showing you my home today. Come on in. Created this property starting in 1994 when we found the land after 4 years of searching. And it was an impenetrable briar thicket. You couldn't even see the lake. And so my landscape architect, ex-husband, and I created this together. And I can't wait to show you all the buildings and the rooms that we have here. So I really wanted to have a modern camp. I am from Wisconsin, and when I moved to New England for grad school, I married New England and came to the Cape for work and just felt like I missed that north woods of Wisconsin, the lakes, the big pine trees, and this property that we found, again, dug it out of the woods, didn't even know it was here. And that helped me to say, this is a beautiful place. I'm going to be very happy here. So I've been in this house for 26 years, and it is my happy place. And I'd love to welcome you in and show you around. So let's get started. Come on into the mudroom. This mudroom is old chalkboards that we reclaimed from Western Mass. And they even have the school board rooms on them. And my girls drew this on here probably 25 years ago, and we've been careful not to wash it off. And one Christmas, they drew the horse on here. And my father-in-law actually drew a perfect drawing of his dairy farm. He's a 9th generation dairy farmer, and he just walked in here with a piece of chalk. And so we've left it there for at least 20 years. We've got our canoe paddles from the children's childhood trips out in Wisconsin. And you can see I like functionality. I like cabins that just put it all out there and make things very functional. So everybody had a basket growing up, and there were a couple of extras. We've got clam baskets from Cape Cod that we throw the shoes into. And if you can't find it, go looking in the baskets or in the clam basket. And in Wisconsin, it's a tradition to, when you go skiing someplace, you have a patch. So when I was young, I collected patches, and they were all over my ski coat. And then my mother put them on a panel for me, and as I became an adult, I started doing it for my girls. And so these are all the ski patches from places that we've been. So it's a lot of history and memories from my childhood and my girls' childhood. One of the things I love is the combination of modern things and older, warm, textured, sentimental things. My grandma, Volker in Wisconsin, she collected baskets from the Winnebago Indians in Wisconsin. And everywhere she went, every picnic, every Christmas party, she would have a basket. And she came in like this with the Christmas presents in her baskets or the wine or whatever she was bringing. And so I have taken that on in my life, and I love baskets and sacks. And you can tell this one's got a few years on it, but I even have her her old LL bean bags that she used to come over with, and I can't bear to part with them. So you're going to see I'm an architect that loves modern architecture, but I'm rather sentimental and love the stories of the things that accumulate in a house. So one comes in, and our mudroom's right here, but then it opens up into the great room that holds the kitchen and the dining room before you get to the living room. And we wanted this open, connected space so we can see the water, but also just have everything available to us. So it's all open with no cabinetry up above. And we have this kind of nifty countertop that people come in and start going, what is this? What is this? And we always have a guessing game as to what it is. It's plywood. And when we were about to finish the house, we had 2 little kids. We didn't have enough money or energy to make the countertop out of concrete, which is what we were hoping for. So we said, let's paint some plywood. We'll put it in for 3 months. And then we have money and energy, we'll change it. And that was 26 years ago. And we love this countertop. So that's one of the pleasures of this kitchen. And it certainly isn't precious. So we have the plywood countertop on this side. And then here we had a custom stainless steel countertop made with the integral sink. And as an architect, we're always working on kitchens. And I love to tell clients, I say, can I stand on my soapbox for sinks? And they say, sure. And I'm like, so you want a big sink where the turkey roasting pan goes, and then a sink where compost can go, and then a sink where your clean, dry dishes sit down here, so they're not sitting up here being yucky on the top of a countertop. And sometimes they say, oh, aren't you just wonderful? And we're going to do that. Sometimes they don't say that. But so this is our sink combination, and it's terrific. And again, like the mudroom, just open functionality. This is recycling and soap and the stuff of life. It's not hidden, cutting boards. I spend less time opening up drawers and drawers trying to hide things, so I'm pretty direct and functional about all these things. And all the knotty pine refers back to the knotty pine that's on the site. One of the things you'll see as we go through the house are our beloved trees. So the name of this house is Lucky Pines, and these are the Lucky Pines. They were growing right here on the site, and we cut them down, saved them, dried them, peeled them, and put them back in as the structural system. So they go 3 stories tall all the way up to the roof. And then they become where I hang everything from wet beach towels to beloved treasures from the kids. And you'll see those all throughout the house. This concrete wall, we're going to talk about this when we are outside also, but this concrete wall moves through this entire house. It goes out to the garden. It holds the workshop and shed. It picks up again out in the barn. And so this wall is actually the inside-outside foundation wall. It's insulated on the outside, but it is the working wall that holds up the hillside that allowed us to cut the hillside and to make this place for the buildings. So it moves through, and we can see it here in its beautiful texture. It was sandblasted because of a fire that we had 2 weeks before we were moving in. Right here, this floor burned out completely. This tree column dropped down, and we had to put in a new tree. But there was just a little electrical fire that happened, and it smoked the house out. And the house was black. It was black goo. So this was missing. The concrete was black. We stripped out all the plaster, and we sandblasted the concrete, and I actually think it's really beautiful. You can just see how it catches the light and the sunlight coming down from the skylight. I think it's a very beautiful detail. Throughout my house, I have paintings, and they're almost all the paintings here are done by family members. My grandmother was a painter. My mother was very creative. My sister is a painter, and my girls painted. So this little adorable painting, 1965, was my grandmother's painting, and she just did for fun, just painted for herself. And then my daughter, when she was little, did a little horsey painting up there. And so we're going to show you those things as we move throughout the house. So architects often like to have everything the same, you know, everything matches and it's lovely. And I used to be that way. But as life goes on, I've softened and I'm bringing in more things that have more meaning to me. So of course I have Heath dishes, you know, from San Francisco, and I love them, and those are beautiful. But when I was young, I was a potter. As a teenager, I was a potter. And I had these things in storage for probably 40 or 50 years. And when I bought the Heath dishes, I thought, you know, why not? Let's just start making this more fun. And Joanna in the office has made beautiful pottery, and so I have this from her. And so that's been a fun way to just loosen the strings on architects' desire to make everything so special. A friend of my daughter made this. My daughter's favorite song is Moon River. And so she put that on a piece of pottery for us. And then our Scandinavian horses, which we collected over the years for each, you know, birthday. They got a special one. And these are just silly things, but they're like tea and chocolate boxes that are so beautiful. I can't part with them. And all these things here are ribbons from flowers. People send flowers or cards and they have ribbons on them. And I just started tying them on here. So just special, just love. It's like love ribbons that I've kept. So I want to show you a really special room, probably my favorite room after the mud room. And it's around this corner. And it's kind of the functional and the magical, because this is where good things happen. So on this side, we have the magical, the party and the fun. If anyone wants a drink, they can make it here. Got a little refrigerator, and this has been a lot of fun. And I have my dad's crystal glasses that he loved to have a drink in. And then people have been giving me beautiful crystal glasses. And on this side is the reality of life. Everything you need in a kitchen, plus probably a lot of things you don't need, but vases, candles, all the food, and everything for baking. So it's a lot of stuff. This is normally in upper cabinets, but in here it's just walk in and it's all visible. And I have an old metal bucket down here that has mixers in it. And of course, another place, I don't know how people live without bulletin boards, but I got a cork board here where I put the things of life that make me happy. And of course, I have the heights of the family here, 3 feet. We mark them with the heights, and we have everybody's heights up through. And so that's a fun board for us in the grocery list. So it's nice to have a back kitchen door like many homes have. And our kitchen door heads out to kind of a special place for us. And so this is our kitchen door that leads out to our garden. This is the wall I spoke of that organizes all the buildings on the site. And in this garden, we turned it into a fountain and a runnel. It's a long copper trough that leads us out underneath the oak leaf hydrangeas and the trumpet vine. And the fun thing about this is one comes from the kitchen and right out to the outdoor shower area. And so one can take a shower out here and be underneath the trumpet vine and the oak leaf hydrangea. And you could even flip a burger on the grill while you're having an outdoor shower. So it's a lovely connection all the way through the house. We can see all the way down and outside towards the lake from this view, and so we love this garden. So I can't wait to show you the gardens and the other buildings, but right now we're going to go back inside and see what else is waiting for us. So we're coming back inside, and this space is really special because I think one can really see the site so well. And what I love about being here, it's a deep woods with big pine trees, but the lake is outside. And the orientation of the entire house isn't straight on to the lake, it changes with each room. And so this little angled out bay helps change one's view and orientation towards the water. And part of that is we wanted to have a semi-industrial house. We loved the logs and the knotty pine, but an all log cabin is a lot. So you can see the knotty pine coming through, but you can also see the steel beams, just the raw steel. And so what better place for a couple of 30-year-olds to throw a garage door into the dining room. And that was something that we just thought would be fun and easy, and it's proven to be a really a neat feature. This door goes up all summer long. There's a big screen on it, and then we close it in the fall. When we're having lovely weather, this is what we do with our dining room wall. And then it stays there most of the summer. We've got one screen here, and that stays all summer. And then in the fall, that comes off and some storm panels goes on, and we close the door. And it's been a beautiful place to sit and have dinner and experience this view, feeling like you're outside, but you're a little bit inside. And we love that juxtaposition of the warmth of the pine with a little bit of industrial character in the house. And this bench is a place that my daughter, she claimed this as her own. She sat here and did homework every night during high school, and this was her spot to sit with the kitty cat and to have that view. So we feel like this is very special. These chunks of wood were reclaimed from Katamet sawmill, and we just stuck them in as big chunks of wood. So it's a rugged place with some knoll chairs that were the originals that we had reupholstered. And so again, the velvet with the chunky wood and the industrial door is just that combination of all the things that make it warm and rich and interesting for us. Over the years that I've been in New England, which is now almost 40, I've enjoyed spending a lot of time in Vermont. And this sign we found at a junk sale. And what's neat is, what I first noticed was camp lot for sales, which is what this place is like. But then underneath it, the original sign said Fairbanks Scales. And that was a business up in Vermont. So somebody had taken a Fairbanks sign and decided, no, we've got camp lots for sale. So we picked that up, and I just love the Vermont piece and then the Lucky Pines camp reference. We've got a few more things like that in the house that I look forward to showing you. Oftentimes when I'm setting a table, I am taking pine cones that I've collected on trips. Some of these pine cones come from my grandmother, the painter, who loved the West. So back in the 30s and 20s, when she went out west, she would collect pine cones. And then we, out hiking, when we find found antlers that deer have dropped, and we just cherish them and bring them home. And then all these ball jars that have crocheted elements over them. Girlfriends got together and we did these one night, and I don't know how to crochet, but they helped me. And so I've had these for years, more than 10 years, and just keep putting new candles in the ball jars. These are antique napkins that happen to have my daughter's initials on them, just coincidentally, E.L., Elizabeth Louise. And so those are very sweet. Again, just bringing together natural, fun things that have meaning for us. That's a really important part of how I decorate the house. So as we move from the dining room and kitchen space, we wanted to have a little separation between these spaces and the living room. Again, we wanted every room to have a different relationship with the water. And so we created this freestanding concrete wall that has the fireplace on the other side. But what it did is it gave me a place to have a wall of a live, moving photography collection. And so I've taken photographs that come up and letters and things that I just love. And I get to live with them every day and pass by them and pause and read them. So the wall has the strength, and then the special things hang there as these memory pieces. As an architect from Wisconsin, Frank Lloyd Wright is central to my core spirit about architecture. And I've always loved this lamp that he designed. And there are many versions of it in his home in Taliesin as he experimented with its design. And I fell in love with it as a 20-year-old. And about 15 years ago, I said, that's it, I'm buying it. So I love this lamp. And it also gives me a little place for all these continuing special things. And when I went back to Taliesin a couple summers ago, I was so happy to see that Frank Lloyd Wright had his special things sitting on the lamp. And so I felt validated for me to put more things on it. So it's a very special piece for me, and I love it. So with this concrete wall and all the other walls on the first floor, there are very few. You'll see that none of them meet the ceiling. And we did that so that the entire envelope of the first floor floats freely, and that the powder room, the pantry, and this wall, which are the only elements in this whole first floor, they come up to a little more than 6 feet. And so as we come around this wall, we see how then the space opens up, but this light flows over from one side to the other. So we're coming into the living room, which has its own special piece and relationship with the landscape that I look forward to having you see. We have a Malm fireplace from California, a classic modern piece, and then raw steel that makes the fireplace space. So non-flammable, but also rusty and black like gunmetal. And you'll see upstairs why the gunmetal is special to me. But I love how the fabric, the rust, the pine floors, and the concrete all come together and balance each other out with heat and cool and hard. And these floors, you can see how warm they are. They are resawn, reclaimed, antique yellow pine. We have a local sawyer here that reclaims things and made these floors for us. And then they're oil covered, so you get a very rich ambery color. And it's just very pretty with all the textures. This corn crib wall behind the sofa is coming from my background in Wisconsin, that corn cribs are on most farm properties. And so we like the idea of making the barrier between the living room and the stair that goes down to the lower level. But again, having the wall not meet the ceiling. And so now you get to see the pine trees outside, the steel beam, the pine columns, and then the artwork. So all this artwork is from family members. Again, we've got Grandma who loved to paint. This one is from 1949. And she liked to take calendars and then paint the image from the calendars, and that's what this one was. But I love geraniums. She always had geraniums. And then my daughter liked to make things when she was in high school, and so these are her pieces and her little paintings and explorations. And so we're very fortunate to have those. So I think what I really love about this space is that I can see the kitchen and the concrete wall and the window outside, but it's cozy and then it lets go in the corner, and we get this moment of glass that gives us a lovely view to the woodland and the lake. And during the winter, we can see the lake fully. During the summer, it's a little obscured. And then we put the piano here so that Lizzie had the prettiest spot to sit and play as a young player. So now this piano and I are getting to be friends, and I have an adult piano beginner book, and I sit here and learn where middle C is, and it's a joy to be developing a relationship with this piano that my daughter enjoyed so much. So as we move from the living room to the library, you see another painting. This is by my sister. She painted it of my girls, and I just treasure that. And the old record collection from the 70s, and macrame from my girlfriend. And we come into a room that we added in 2008. So about 10 years after we built the house, we added on this library. It created an art space downstairs, and then it created, this is my favorite room to do work or read. It was just a library before COVID, and then during COVID it became an office, so it was a lovely place to work. And again, many sentimental things. My great uncle's fishing gear and turkey calls. So just a very warm, emotional space for me that is filled with beautiful things. And then again, I get to turn around and look at the lake. So every room has this corner breakaway of the windows to connect us with the lake and the landscape. So we've collected these things over the years in special places. That kiln came out of a client's house. Then I bought this one. Of course, I was out west, and I just love hides. I think they're very beautiful, and I honor the animal that made it possible. This was my grandmother's footstool, and she needle pointed it, and I've just kept it forever. And then when we bought our little house in Vermont, we bought it furnished. An elderly man, Mr. Brown, left it, and this chair was there. And I have to say, it's the most comfortable chair. I love it. And we brought that down from Vermont, and we brought the birch trees down from Vermont and made the columns for the bookshelves and the table. And then again, just milled up plank pine from a local supplier and made a simple table that again, makes me happy with the memories that it has. So I'd love to take you upstairs and show you more of the things we have collected over the years. We're going to take our concrete wall with us as we head up. So we come upstairs and we're going to show you plaster in this house. There is no paint. We just have colored plaster walls. We have the rusty color, and you'll see this ivory sandy color, and then I'll show you the green in the girls' bedroom. But I also want to talk about, as a liberal Easterner, and you come upstairs and here's a gun collection. And it's because my father, who really was just a cowboy, collected the cowboy guns from the 1800s, the Winchesters from the 1860s to the 1890s. And so I have some of his collection, along with his holsters that he would put on and put his guns in on Saturdays when there's a Western on TV. No kidding. As kids, he would have his two guns, and he would shoot at the TV like John Wayne, and then he'd practice, and he'd be swirling his guns, and sometimes he'd say, oh, that was a good one, I got to do that again. So that's what I grew up with, and I'm transplanted to the East. So this is my little bit of my father here, making me happy. So this bedroom was where my girls grew up together until they became teenagers. And at some point, one of them had a young birthday, and their father built this bed for them. And we had velvet draperies that hung down, and it was their princess world. And they would close the velvet draperies or then tie them back with big gold sash. So it's been a special place. And when they were little, they didn't want their beds separated. So that's why two twins were put together to make this world. And they hung things all over this that were special to them. So we love that. And the horse ribbons were collected. You'll see up at the barn that my daughter was a rider her whole life. And so she collected her ribbons. And here you get to see the plaster and the two colors of the plaster that are in this room. So we took the sand from the site, and we took the green pine needles, and we took the rusty pine needles, and we literally put them out, and we mix colors with the plaster to make the colors of the site come forward. And we like that the walls have so much movement and character to them that we just love how they change over the years, and only the window frames are painted. So it's a nice character and richness to these walls that we really love. So I want to show you something really special over here. There's a little window that goes out to the garden, and we can hear that fountain. And right now we're just catching the oak leaf hydrangea and the trumpet vine in full bloom. It's just a really lovely, it's a lovely, sweet moment in this bedroom. And there's an architectural element here I want to share, and that is that you can see this colored plaster and the movement in it. This is where we were striving to get the green pine needle color of the property into this room and into a couple of the rooms upstairs. And so all of this is not painted, it's just colored plaster. And just this little bit of the window is painted. But really, the show is outside. So now I'm going to bring you down to the primary bedroom through our hallway. When my daughter got to be a teenager, she moved out of her sister's room and into here. And we have all their books and my books over the years with a lot of photographs, some travels out to the Southwest from my grandmother, again in the 20s, and my daughters were dancers, and some of their special things from early childhood. And so as we come down to the end of the hallway, we come into my bedroom, the primary bedroom, and like the living room or the library, we have a corner of windows so that we can enjoy a view to the water. And because the bed really wanted to face the water, but there was no way to really get it to do that, we created this slightly curving wall that became a headboard. And that allowed the bed to shift and have a little bit of a gesture towards the water. And again, you can see the colored plaster in here with the juxtaposition of the rusty colored plaster of the rusty pine needles. And it's that green and rust that we have inside the house because it was outside the house. We've got more of these tree columns coming up here. They've made it all the way to the top floor, and they're working their way up to the steel beam and to our cathedral shed ceiling. And this ceiling roof runs all the way down with a loft in between this bedroom and the girls' bedroom. So there's a flat ceiling in the bathrooms and in the guest bedroom, but we get the lovely cathedral ceiling with the framing exposed, which gives that warmth and texture that we love. So on this curving wall, you might notice something a little unusual for a bedroom, but I am from Wisconsin, so that's a musky lung fish, and I'd like to say that I caught it, or I know somebody that caught it, but I don't. I just made it possible by going into a taxidermy shop in Wisconsin. But there's a reason why it was important to me, and that's because there's a great family fishing story of my grandpa at the cabin in northern Wisconsin. He caught the fish of a lifetime, and they're pretty tough fish, so you carry a small gun with you to shoot them before you bring them in the boat because they have such teeth. And as he shot this fish, he shot through the line and it got away. And he was so sick about it that he went out walking the shoreline of the lake that night and he found the fish. And that's why I have a fish hanging over my bed. So behind this curving wall, we have a little tiny bathroom. My parents didn't want us to have to share with the children our whole lives, and so they gave us a little bit of money. We stretched the house and we carved out this little tiny bathroom that has been fantastic. And what we do love is that it is the back of the rusty wall. So it's a very beautiful shape that leads us into it with a shower and the water closet. So this little space feeds down into here where the chimney from that Malm fireplace that you saw in the living room, it had to go somewhere and we don't have any thick walls to hide it in. So it runs right through the bathroom and puts off a little bit of heat and has a steel plate on the floor. And so we're bringing that aesthetic of the pine boards and the steel and the plaster upstairs from down below. So it looks like the weather has cleared, the sun's come out, and I look forward to showing you the gardens and the property here that make this place so special to me. And the first place we're going to go is to the garden that sits between the house and the workshop. What I love about coming out into the garden is that I'm in a space between the house and the barn, and then between the workshop and the house here. And we built this workshop, which became a guest room, as the first building. And that was the workshop that helped us do some of the work to make the other buildings. And it's this in-between space that's become this sanctuary for us. And there's this arbor here with the trumpet vine. This is New England, this isn't Hawaii. So it's even more amazing how happy this trumpet vine is. And when one goes underneath the vine into the arbor, at nighttime it has these lights. It's just a beautiful place with the fountain in the background creating that backdrop of sound. And so I just feel so lucky to be here, of having this space that is both built and architecture, but landscape. It seems to me this perfect outdoor room that feels like quite a sanctuary. We've had beautiful dinner parties here, and I'm glad to share it with you. So as we leave this garden, we're walking along this rustic building that's become a lot of wonderful functional things for us. This is our workshop, and this is where we park the cars, and that's kind of bicycle and toys and things. And then you can see why I fell in love with this property. You know, our magnificent big white pines. And we have our firewood in this building where we keep the tractor sometimes, and our kayaks. We love to kayak. And what we're going to do is take you up and show you a really special room that we tucked in above this workshop. But we're going to wait a minute because we're going to come at it through a little secret garden. So I promised to show you a secret space that we made that we really treasure. So come on up and we'll take a look. So we're coming up. This is the workshop from downstairs, and it's behind here. But we're going to keep on going and take a look at what we've got. Just watch your head. So when we originally built this building, it was just the wood storage area for the workshop below, and there was a trapdoor hole right here. And I was left up here at the top of a ladder, and the ladder was taken away. By the time he came back, I said, let's make it a guest room. We've got 2 weeks till everybody shows up for Christmas. So we did this, and we put in a little half bathroom because you can use the outdoor shower during the summer. And we've got this rustic, charming little guest space that everybody loves, as long as you watch your head when you come through. So now I want to show you one more space in this landscape that's very special. We're going to take a little walk through the woods. So we're up above the garden, and we have this oak leaf hydrangea hedge on this side and the woodlands pressing in on this side. And we've carved out this little treasure of a pathway that gets us from this upper workshop down to another little special place I can't wait to share with you. So this is the pathway to get down to swim in the lake, but there's another pathway here I want to take you down. So about 10 years ago, I was driving across the country with my daughter, and we stayed at Moab under canvas. And that was magical. What an incredible place. And I came home and said, I need my own canvas. I need my own Cape Cod under canvas. And so we created this. We've got a little fire pit down here. And then we've got what I think is the most magical bedroom on the property. A place that guests fight over as to who gets to stay in this versus up in the love shack. And here you are, welcome to the glamp. Let's take a look inside. Come on in. So when I came back from that trip out to Moab, I sketched up a tent and went looking for a company that would sew it for me. So the Denver Tent Company sewed this up for us. And then we built a frame from the locust trees on the site, and we drop this tent over it every springtime. And we can zip it off in the winter and put it in storage. What makes this pretty terrific is that this is a real bed, a king-size bed. So there's no camping on a rough mattress here. It's pretty luxurious, and there is nothing like waking up and having this view of the water, or better yet, taking an afternoon nap down here. So this is my summer magical space at Lucky Pines. So being an architect on a property is fun as you get to add buildings. And my daughter was born looking for a pony. I was more than happy to help with that interest. And so this was the last building that we built on the property, and it is our barn. And for 20 years we had horses in here. But now we have something else. We have a party barn with a harvest area that we really love entertaining and having dinner parties up here. But there's a little room here that still holds the memory of the horses and all the fun that went with that. We would have pizza parties in this room on Friday nights. The family would get together, have pizza, and sit amongst the saddles and the tack and play cards. Being a residential architect and sitting here on this property is a phenomenal experience, because being a residential architect means that you meet people and you see their land and you meet their family, and we make buildings out of the stories and out of the landscapes. And Lucky Pines is my story, and it is my heart place where this landscape brought me back to my roots, my emotional and visual roots of northern Wisconsin. And we made a home here. And I think as a young architect, it's such a rare opportunity to be able to design and build your own home. And I had a great collaborator, and we built this place piece by piece and idea by idea, but always holding to what I needed visually and what I needed as a soulful place. So as a residential architect, this is my home. And I love it here because it anchors me to the landscape, and it gives me such a sentimental, emotional place where all my memories of raising children and sharing this with family are here. And the campiness, the modern components, the great pine trees, the glamp, you know, it's all a treasure of memories and visual richness for me. So home means making a place that captures all of that for somebody, for everybody. And I'm so grateful I was able to share it with Homeworthy. Thank you, Homeworthy, for visiting me today at Lucky Pines. I'm so grateful to share it with you, and I hope that Lucky Pines has touched your heart the way it's touched mine. Until next time, take care.
Thanks for watching. Be sure to go to homeworthy.com for exclusive content, shopping guides, and so much more.